Show me your moves.
Hey, all you cool cats and kittens, and welcome to another episode of Geeklife, your source for all the nerdy news you need to know. If you're new to the show, we're about a 2-hour-ish mashup of all the pop culture news you know and love. We talk about video games, movies, TVs, comics, and all things nerdy, given to you 100% bullshit-free, unlike anything on Parler. My name is The Dodd. I'll be your host tonight, and joining me today is a man known for his wit, intellect, and particularly his choice of headwear. The man, the myth, the legend, Jake the Great. How you doing today, Jake?
Living the dream, as always.
Doing it.
Yeah,
looking good.
Just
Background's
doing
nice.
it, and doing it well. That's just how we do here, you know.
Yeah, got some color in the background now. We got those LED lights going, so we're official church streamers now. I got a neon light up here too, so now we're really getting super official. But also someone who's getting super official. Coming into us live from the holodeck of the Starship Enterprise, Comrade Kev is reporting for duty. How are you doing today, Kev?
I'm doing great, fellow Comrade Dodd and fellow Comrade Jake. Just sitting here preaching a good gospel about comedy. No, I'm just kidding.
Comrades here. We're all comrades here. Okay. All right. So what's been on your on the binge table lately? I've heard you've been getting deep into some Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Jake. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so just to give you guys a little bit of the first impressions of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, if you haven't heard of it, it's one of the launch titles for the new Xbox. It's also going to be available on PlayStation 5, I believe, and it's on PC, which is what I'm playing it on because PC master race, and you know I like consoles too. I don't get why gaming's so divided. I don't get wars anyway. I'm currently playing it on my PC. I've got about 14 hours in. It's definitely started off a little bit slow. It felt like a grind. Over 10 hours in is when it started to feel like it started, if that makes any sense. So like this is definitely one of those slow burns, similar to a Red Dead beginning almost, right? And I want to tell everybody that because like I think a lot of people are going to be turned off at the beginning, right? And so like it's one of those things where like I really want to get the word out that like the beginning of this fucking game is a climb, right? And so but the story feels easier to follow than Odyssey, and the open world doesn't feel much bigger, even though it is. And it's just one of those things where like it's done a really good job so far of kind of holding my hand in a way, and it's but not in a bad way, right? Like it's like not like I don't feel like a fucking toddler, right? But like it definitely is like feeling like it's leading me through this story, almost like a God of War feel. Right. And so which is something you don't really get in your Assassin's Creed, you know, like kind of gameplay every now and then. Right. The game's been beautiful so far. I mean, I have been playing it on the PC. I haven't got a chance to play it on one of the new consoles.
Well, it's made for those next gen consoles. So,
exactly. So it's playing pretty good on the PC right now. Pretty good. But it is buggy as fuck. Like that day one patch is desperately needed. There needs to be some updates. I pulled out my long ship. I got on it the other day and then it glitched all the way like probably about 200-300 yards back and on the middle of the land and just started flipping. And like I had to start the game over again. Like it was I don't think the Vikings had that technology. I know it's not necessarily like
do a barrel roll.
Yeah.
I know it's not necessarily one for one on the history, but anyway, they just but even with the bugs, it's been a lot of fun to play. Once it hits its stride, you feel like a Viking assassin, like which is pretty badass, I've loved the game so far. The only major mess up from Ubisoft on this one is that they fucked around and made Black Flag so good. If they wouldn't have made Black Flag so good, this would probably be, my favorite Assassin's Creed game, but obviously Black Flag's still the GOAT. But right now I'm giving it 4 beard strokes out of 5. It could have got 5 total beard strokes, but it didn't. It only got 4. That's because, it's buggy as shit at the moment and it's not Black Flag.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, you got, I mean, It's early. It's very early.
Yeah.
It's an Assassin's Creed game. There's a lot of this that's reskinning. How much they've built on. I know they really rejuvenated the series after Origins and Odyssey. I've heard nothing but good things. That's probably
Odyssey's
one game
really good.
that I'm gonna that's probably gonna be my next rainy day game. When I'm like I'm really kind of in the desert of games like I really want to play, and then I want to go back and play an old game. That's probably gonna be the next one I play, but. Valhalla's looking good too, man. Good too. Yeah. 4 whole beard strokes,
Yeah,
something.
Yeah, and I would have gave it 0.5, maybe even 5. But like I said, it's not Black Flag, which is still one of the greatest games in the Assassin's Creed franchise ever, right? And just one of the best games I've ever played in general. Like I don't feel like enough people talk about Assassin's Creed Black Flag by itself because it's considered like a part of this whole huge overarching franchise. But that game's just fucking awesome. I don't know if it's also because I love pirates. But I also like Vikings, right? And Vikings had a lot of pirate shit going for them. So like, so far the rating has been pretty awesome. They talk mad shit and like, oh, sorry for all of our like I grew up Baptist, so like my grandma if you're tuning in right now, I'm sorry for this one. But you raid churches. And so since you're all in the Norse mythology, they talk mad shit about like Christian stuff. They're like, "Oh yeah, you worship one God. Like that's fucking lazy." And they'll just talk mad shit about Christianity, and it's pretty funny. They had a whole in the very first few minutes, not to give a big spoiler. There's a whole debate about the cross. They're like, yeah, Odin hung upside down a tree for so many days to gain knowledge, but we don't put trees on necklaces. Right. You don't worship the things that kill your gods. That's weird, man.
That is kind of weird.
They're like, why are there crosses everywhere? And so, anyway.
You'd be really against crosses if you're a Christian. You'd be like, nah, come on, man.
It's an interesting debate that,
it's like our God is a vampire, so we wear garlic around our necks.
Yeah. No, you wouldn't do that. And so, anyway, definitely enjoyed it so far. That's, like I said, I'm about 14 hours in, and really it took about 10 of those to feel like
just
the game
14
started.
Hours in.
Wow.
Just 14.
Kev, if you had in those 14 hours, have you been able to indulge in any other content?
No. Well, that's not true. I have a fun fact. I've actually started playing Origins. Had barely touched it before, so I was like, I need something new to play since I don't have the console. I want to wait to play Valhalla on the new systems, and considering I haven't played the last two, I figure now considering how sold out everything is, I guess I got some time. No, 4 out of 5 beard strokes. That's pretty. Jake's got a hefty beard there, so that's impressive. If it was 4 out of 5 of mine, that'd be cause for concern. But
right, you'd probably demand a recount.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I feel we should just rename the podcast Assassin's Creed Fanboys.
Right. Black Flag was my favorite, by the way. I wouldn't say it's the best one, but personally, it's my favorite. It was just
Black Flag is the best. Okay, I mean, I'm a pirate fanboy. I will admit that, hands down. I just love pirates. Yeah. So.
That is one thing that I think is unanimous, though. We all Black Flag. That's it's such a good game in general. So
right. There, thank you, Fattest Sax, for launching some fireworks there for us.
That was hype.
I think those fireworks are the signal that we should get started with the show. But before we do get started with the show, a quick reminder to everybody that if you like what you see or hear on the show tonight, feel free to follow us at Geeklife Live or on any of our personal social medias. First off, Geeklife is on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram. We're now on Spotify all the way up to episode 13, and hopefully by next week we'll be all the way caught up, so that you'll be able to listen to this podcast. We're going to try to stream on Sundays and be live on Wednesdays. Don't hold us to that yet. We're just a bunch of nerds trying to figure all this shit out. So, but you can also follow any of us on any of our personal social medias. You can find me at Rusebane, WRUSE_BANE on Twitch and Twitter. Jake, where can they find you?
You can find me at Gonzo Gone Live on both the Twitch and the Twitterverse. It's the one that's down here somewhere.
And Comrade Kev, what about you?
Twitch is totally awesome, and the socials is Kevin Todd Jr.
All right. With that out of the way, Jake, give us that rundown.
More like a jog down. Am I right? I am very out of shape. As always, we'll get started with this week's headlines from the world of TV, or the television, as your grandma calls it. Netflix jives with 5 and Steve Carell. Wanda's got 2021 vision, And 1 star of The Mandalorian is against their helmet oath, and this is not the way. Then we'll all go to the movies. For this week's movie news, Daddy Depp gets paid his dollars, no doubt. That was fun. The Mouse adds another movie to its death pool. And get ready to see John Wick fight some demons again. And next we'll drop a rack on eBay and get a PS5 just to find out it's a SojaCube. We got some video game news. Pokemon Go is still going to the bank. The console wars have began and the scalpers are drawing first blood. And the Avengers are not assembling. Anyway.
Oh, no.
And lastly, we've got other news about the U.S. military wanting to put fighter jets with freaking laser beams attached to their heads. We'll dive deep into this week's deep dive on the power of friendship. Fandoms. And then this week's top Zen, which were show stealers. They stole the show. Anyway, let's get right into it with this week's TV headlines. What's Netflix got cooking, Dodd?
Well, Netflix has got cooking at least some renewals, which finally they needed some renewals. They've been canceling everything left and right, but Netflix may have stepped on their own feet earlier this year with a string of cancellations to some fan favorite series. Pour out one for all the Sabrina fans out there, guys. They're having a hard time. But there
Santa
is
Clarita
some hope.
Diet.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Yeah. But there is some hope. Fan favorite Umbrella Academy was renewed for a 3rd season and will feature again 10 new episodes, just as the past 2 seasons have. Another interesting title has also been renewed, Space Force, which is the Netflix series featuring Steve Carell. Norm Hitchcock, a producer for King of the Hill, Parks and Recreation, and Brooklyn Nine-Nine, will now also serve as a co-runner with Greg Daniels, and comedian Jimmy O. Yang, who acts in Space Force and used to act in Silicon Valley, is also joining the show as a writer. It will be interesting to see how the show does in a post-Trump era. Which of these are y'all more excited about? Umbrella Academy Season 3, which, we could talk about a little bit about possibly living past its prime, or a Space Force in the era outside of Trump?
It's Umbrella Academy Season 3 for me.
Umbrella Academy for you?
No. Yeah.
Oh yeah, same. Umbrella Academy.
It's a hard.
Yeah.
It's easy.
Yeah.
Dude, Boots on the Moon. Don't get me wrong. I think the first season of Space Force was okay. It was very topical, especially with Trump. But now with that whole thing, whatever. It's kind of like it's gonna be interesting. It would be interesting to see what they do in a post-Trump Space Force, right? But also the Umbrella Academy, come on, that show's been fucking awesome. They're just now about to go into the Sparrow Academy, which if you've read the comics or anything like that, you're pretty hyped about because that comic hasn't even came out yet. And so it's one of those things where the show is now coming out with shit that hasn't even came out in the comics. And so anyway, I'm way more excited for the new season.
Is that good territory to be in, though? Isn't that dangerous territory to be in?
It is a little dangerous because then you start to go off of the actual core material. But I'm gonna be the guy here. I've liked the Netflix show more than the comic books. I love the comics. Don't get me wrong; they've been great. Yeah. But the show's been way better in my opinion. It does a better job with the characters and everything. So the showrunners at this point, I trust them.
Right. And I think they found their identity too in the second season. I think the first season they were still kind of finding their way. They didn't really know the tone, even with some of the characters. But you saw in the second season with characters with Luther and Diego, they're kind of a little bit more irreverent. And I think that sort of irreverency with a lot of the serious shit going on kind of balanced itself out. I thought they did a really good job in that season too.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm still a little bit nervous about Umbrella Academy. I think that it's great where it is right now, but I think season 3 is where things start to go downhill for a lot of these shows. And so I mean, it's better than it being canceled, right?
Yeah.
But I'm a little bit hesitant. This is not one that I would immediately jump on and bet to be, a knockout of the park. If I would have to bet anything, I bet this is probably going to be one of the worst seasons of Umbrella Academy because it's going to be that one where it's trailed on for a bit. But hey, if you set your expectations low, you got nowhere to go but up. So,
that is true.
That's fair. Yeah.
Speaking
also, the Boots on the Moon flavor of Ben and Jerry's ice cream is phenomenal. So it's great to see. then Netflix is going to keep this one rolling because that means that ice cream is going to stay on the shelves. Daddy Jake enjoys it. So
shout out to Ben and Jerry's too.
Just shout out to Ben and Jerry's in general, man.
Shout out Ben and Jerry's.
There's been a couple
Fun
of times
fact,
where
my girlfriend actually got Jerry's autograph.
Oh,
yeah.
All right, yeah.
That's pretty
badass.
that's actually pretty badass, dude. Like,
Right.
I've eaten enough of their ice cream. They should definitely send me one. If you're listening, Ben or Jerry, you can sponsor the show. You can have commercials like this every week.
Right.
Good. We would talk about. Well, evidently we do it for free anyway, so we're not making a great sell here, guys.
Gotta give them a taste.
Fair enough.
They're gonna get a huge bump in sales, and they're gonna be like, "What happened?"
Right.
We're giving them samples, Todd.
Well, to root us back to the world of television, Wanda and Vision's release date has been revealed for Disney Plus. Jake, you got more of what's going on with that. Tell us a little bit about what's going on with WandaVision.
Yeah, so we all thought, or at least Disney kind of did a hollow promise that WandaVision was going to come out this year, and that turned out to be a lie. The first episode, what we do know so far, though, is that the first episode was shot in black and white and filmed in front of a live studio audience. Fingers crossed that it was before March. If not, someone literally may have died to go see WandaVision filmed it live. This year has resulted in a major drought of Marvel Studios projects. If you haven't heard the recent news, there literally won't be an MCU movie this year for the first time, I believe, in like 8 years or something crazy. So anyway, 2020 definitely been one of the worst years on record. But this year, but according to comicbook.com, the first proper series of shows set in the Marvel Cinematic Universe will reunite Scarlet Witch and Vision as they navigate a mysterious reality that captures their lives in a conventional format of sitcoms throughout the decades. WandaVision was originally meant to follow up on the Falcon and Winter Soldier show, but like many other Marvel Studios projects, they were delayed due to the pandemic. On Thursday, Marvel and Disney announced on social media that WandaVision will premiere on January 15th, 2021. This is certainly later than fans had hoped, given that 2020 has been entirely void of anything from Marvel Studios. And it seems like a foregone conclusion that WandaVision may be airing in December. That's what we thought earlier on. We even reported it here on Geeklife because Disney had come out and said, we're coming out with it this year, as to basically kind of give a nod to fans that, like, we didn't forget about you for an entire fucking year. But then guess what? They did. So still, we're going to have to wait until January 15th. So mark those calendars, but mark them with a question mark. Dodd, do you think they'll get to stick to the date this time, or do you think they're going to move it around?
I have a bit more confidence that they're going to stick to the date this time. And the reason for that is because you think that at this point they got to be done with filming.
Yeah. And also Joe Biden won. And just like the Republicans said, coronavirus is magically going to go away. It's just going to go away.
It's supposed to go away on December 4th, so it's a little bit overdue. But I'm hoping that it's going to get there eventually, to where Joe Biden becomes president and it just magically disappears. But
Joe, don't take this down, Twitch, you fucking liberals.
But regardless, I do think that they've got to be past the filming stage, which means that they're in the production stage and they're just got to be wrapping up. And I'm hoping that a lot of this stuff can be done in work from home scenarios where they could keep track of this date, but. They've in a way, this whole kind of like drip feed of Marvel content has made us like actually really, really interested in WandaVision now. I mean, when this was announced, this was not something I was like, oh, okay, And now I'm like, oh, okay, is WandaVision coming out yet? Like,
when's it coming out?
Like, they've gotten us edging for 6 months, waiting to give us WandaVision, and the marketing has worked. We want that sweet release, so I'm hoping that comes in January 2021.
That is true, and we basically ran out of things to watch too. That also might be what that is.
Yeah, it's getting low. It's getting low.
Thank God, Mandalorian,
dude,
guys.
Fucking Mando every Friday. I'm like, hell yeah, clutch.
Yeah,
clutch.
Yeah.
So. Disney Plus, if it gives me another reason to keep this thing going, it'll be an MVP.
Well, speaking of people trying to keep things going, Netflix is taking bold new steps into regular TV. Kevin, tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah, basically. So like you said, Netflix is stepping into linear scheduled TV channels. It is testing out a new linear content channel dubbed Netflix Direct, which will offer subscribers real-time scheduled programming for the very first time. According to IndieWire, Netflix is trialing a new service that will pull content from the streaming giant's existing library and present it in a linear schedule format for those subscribers who like the idea of accessing a pre-programmed feed that doesn't require them to choose what they're going to watch, similar to standard broadcast and cable TV channels. The report notes that Netflix Direct had a soft launch in France on November 5th, with a broader rollout of the service expected across the country next month. You guys looking forward to subscribing or having the Netflix cable guy come in and set up your channels for you?
Why does every announcement from Netflix about any innovation they make like the future from Wall-E seem like all the more real all the time? like we're ever inching closer towards that.
Yeah.
You know?
To me, it just felt like a complete 180. It's just like Netflix is like, we're gonna destroy literally everything you grew up with. Blockbuster, fucking out of here.
Yeah.
Cable TV, fucking out of here. We're gonna destroy all the stuff you grew up with, and then we're gonna make you pay for it again.
Yeah.
So like
Through us.
Like through us. Like, here, you want cable back? Yeah, here you go. Like the recent shuffle button that they came out with, that shit's so hilarious to me that there's people that's just like so indecisive about their Netflix, and which I guess it's true, because like I've seen so many memes that it felt like personal attacks on the fact that like I've opened up Netflix, looked around for like 30 minutes and been like, well, that was good. And then went to like Hulu or something and watched something else. So like I've wasted more time trying to find something to watch on Netflix than I've actually spent probably watching Netflix at this point.
Dude, that's me.
I've done that before.
I'm like, I like the fact of having the shuffle button. I mean, it sucks because it shows me something. I'm like, I don't want to watch this. Yeah. But I think the TV channel this might work. I think there's something about catching. It's weird how they're just going like, let's go back now. Like we've been to the future. Let's go back to the past. But I think I like the idea. I still like the idea of having to like sort of sit and watch something. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, oh damn, I'm gonna miss the show if I don't get to my television at like 9 p.m. I mean, granted, there's probably gonna be some DVR functionality, so that kind of gets it out. But there's nothing like, I don't know. There's also the dilemma of like scrolling through hundreds of channels and having nothing to watch too. So maybe there's just too much. Who knows?
I think there is menu fatigue, because that is a thing.
Yeah.
The menus are getting too big. And so now it's basically like you're paying Netflix for just a channel where they're just going to play some bangers for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I get all the things that you're talking about there, and I've definitely scrolled through Netflix for hours on end. But it definitely still to me feels like the whole idea of Netflix is they created content for you to enjoy at your own pace, at your own time. And then they're going to create a channel where they're just going to also drip feed it to you all the time. So it's content that you can consume at your own time, whenever you want to, all the time.
Whenever you want to.
Yeah, like
all the time.
It's just like, it's just, I don't know. It's anxiety inducing a little bit. Yeah. But I'll be interested to see what they come up with and see what it's like. Is it just going to be, basically a channel with the Netflix random button? Or is it going to be, like actual live content? Like, this would be a good way for Netflix to roll
back soap operas.
Well, I mean, I think that it could be a good way for Netflix to roll out something like it's really had a hard time with shows that like I think The Patriot Act has also gotten canceled, which was a great show. But The Break with Michelle Wolf was another one where they're trying to have some kind of like political daytime TV that was relevant to what's going on in the world, something like a Daily Show or the news or something like that. Like there is that could be an outlet for something like that to happen. But outside of that,
well, they're even doing it with movies now, like Hillbilly Eulogy or whatever. Like that's going to theaters or what theaters are open. And then it'll be on Netflix, even though it's a Netflix movie. I mean, it's directed by Ron Howard. So it's one of those that's got a little bit of weight behind it. And so they're actually trying to put it out in the select theaters or whatever theaters are open, not select. They can't be too picky. And so, like, you know, it ain't like select theaters anymore. It's just like theaters. They're putting it into
whatever
the
one
theaters.
is left.
Yes. And then they're going to put it on Netflix like a month after or something like that. So they've already dipped their toes in like classic theater, right? Like, you know, movie theaters. And so it's one of those things where it's interesting to see now how they would handle the cable aspect. You know, I jokingly said that about soap operas, and you're talking about like the late night stuff, but I could imagine my grandmother tuning into the Netflix channel or something, or like even my mom watching the Netflix channel, just because it's one of those things where like it would be like, you know, say the mornings, maybe some soapy dramas that they could throw together. And then in the evening, something like the Patriot Act. And, you know, like in between there's movies and stuff.
I have questions about one. Is it going to, are there going to be individual channels? Like it'll be Netflix anime, Netflix documentaries, Netflix movies or whatever, action. And then each one is going to have a time slot that way. And then how do you decide which one gets a time slot? Like how do you decide who gets prime time on Monday on Netflix, you know, suspense thrillers or something like that? And then not only that, is it going to be ad free? Or is there going to be sort of a Hulu option where it's like premium or, you know, just regular?
Why
Hulu
would they throw in ads there?
They're already going backwards, Dad. Don't throw it back.
Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like that's famous last words. Like, a temporal rift's gonna open up, and then like I'm just gonna come out there and be like, "Shut your fucking mouth," and like pop back into the portal. You know.
So it looks like, I mean, judging from the release, that it would be that they would pull content from their existing library and present it linear scheduled format. It would work kind of like TMC if you think about it.
Okay.
Like, think about like how Turner Classic Movies always acted, where there was like, you know, you could tune in during the day and it'd be like Indiana Jones and fucking the Raiders of the Lost Ark or something, right?
Yeah.
But then the evening was the bangers like Breaking Bad and, you know, Better Call Saul or like, you know, the zombie show that I'm forgetting right now, Walking Dead. Jesus Christ. And so like, you know, like they would have those in the evening that they were their originals. And so think about like how right now they would probably air just bullshit movies throughout the day. And then in the evening time slots, which would be your prime time, it would be like the new Hill, you know, Bly Manor or whatever show, or like, you know, whatever their latest show is at the time. That's kind of like, you know, the top of the chart kind of a thing.
Right.
Yeah.
That's probably how they'll do it.
I mean, that makes sense, dude. I
mean, I'm not a show
we'll see how it goes.
Runner, but we'll see.
Yeah. We'll see how it goes. Well, speaking of something that we've been talking a little bit earlier about the Mandalorian probably being like the big shining star on the hill when it comes to TV right now. But this next story is definitely not a shining star on the hill story, and it definitely talks about the Mandalorian. So let's get into it. Gina Carano is getting some backlash over her Empire supporting views. It all started with a tweet about voter fraud in the 2020 election. So if you don't know, Gina Carano, I believe is her name, is a bootlicker. She's she plays Kara something. Oh, I need to look this up. Kara and Cara Dune. There we go. Cara Dune in The Mandalorian. Basically, she recently came out. She started tweeting stuff about the voter fraud in the 2020 election. Fans started digging into her history, found that she liked a ton of different anti-BLM posts as well as anti-masker posts. And then she, of course, kind of sealed the deal by activating an account on TikTok. By that, I mean Parler. For those of you who don't know what Parler is, it's like a social media app for like
don't give it clout.
Only people that don't give it clout.
Yeah, well, no, it's just like it's. I saw somebody literally post about it. It was like we all need to quit telling them about it because then they're just gonna keep going to it. It's just like you know.
All right, yeah, that's cool for dumbasses. But anyways, she just made a TikTok, so that kind of seals the deal. If you didn't know, she is a full-on, full-throated, fully endorsing, like wearing the hat MAGA fan, and a lot of fans have been calling for her to be canceled off the show because of this. And it does, like, for someone who played an outlaw, who actively fought against oppressive authority in the series, it is kind of sad to see that was all just an act. Of course, they're actors, and we don't actually think that people that are playing villains on screen are actually those kind of villains, and so why should we think the same thing about those heroes? But at the same time, it is definitely a bummer to see. Kev, do you think this is something that she can get canceled over? It is kind of something that's pretty political.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is something she can get canceled over. Like, God, to quote Martin, damn, Gina. It's like, just shut up. Just like, actually, no, don't shut up. I'm glad she sort of exposed herself in this way.
Yeah.
Now, her character, like, I haven't watched the new season, but, in the first season, I'm fine if her character's gone or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, well, that's cool. So, yeah, she can go, hang out with whatever. And you mentioned, like, how, she plays a character who's fighting against an oppressive authoritarian, like, regime, the empire and stuff. I think like a lot of the people she sort of aligned herself with, that they think they're the good guys, we talked earlier, I shared something in our Discord, and we'll probably touch on it later. It was the guy who was dressed up wearing a Trump mask, dressed up as Homelander, and the showrunner for Homelander was like, do you guys watch the show? He's the bad guy. They're probably like, no, Homelander's the good, you can't argue with these people because they don't think logically. You just have to, like, insult them and tell them to shut up. It's like, and hopefully they go away.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
No, it's disappointing. It's disappointing. I mean, I don't think, like, so that's the thing. And that's the thing that people need to start thinking about. Like, it's not necessarily being Republican or wanting to support Donald Trump so much as it is, like, being also like roped in with everything that encompasses that. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I don't necessarily like the cult shit, like
Exactly.
anti-masking, anti-BLM, thinking that fucking Antifa are like a real organization, and so, like, or with terrorist, and so it's just like, it's all the stuff that's lumped in with that. Cause, like, I know people who are conservatives.
You don't hate all of those things together and not be. It's all connected. It's all connected because you follow.
If she wanted to be a conservative Republican, and say that, like, oh, I'm for small government, and I'm also like blah 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 and all this other stuff. It's like, okay, you can't
like
cancel
Clint Eastwood or somebody.
Yeah, you can't cancel somebody just because they're a Republican. But at the same time, like, now that comes with so much extra baggage that it's almost like an automatic cancel button, and so it's crazy. That's where it's at, because, like, it's crazy they've let themselves get to that, though. Like, that's not, but it's just, that's the bad part about this whole thing, is that, like, if she was just like, no, I'm just a conservative, it's like, okay, well, you can't be canceling that. But then she's like, I'm a conservative who also believe masks are muzzles and oppression.
Oppressing my freedom.
Yeah, like, oh my God,
the election was rigged. Like,
yeah, that's the other thing.
Like,
too.
people say you shouldn't be canceled for political opinions. That's not a political opinion. That's a batshit crazy theory. That's
conspiracy. Yeah, it's conspiracy.
Yeah.
An anti-BLM post is just all that is coded words for you're fucking racist.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. I think that that's more than justified to cancel her for, especially if the company wants to distance themselves from that kind of image. But
they may not even had plans for her in season 2. Season 2 seems to be doing its own thing, and so, like, we may not even see her. So
it may not even be a thing. But she's
she could
definitely
just go off into the abyss.
She's been cheerleading the success of Mandalorian, and then it is a reminder of, like, how embedded that cult is within our society. It's like, oh, they're in our fan bases. They're in there watching the same episodes of Mandalorian that we are, and again,
they call
as you said,
themselves
Jake,
the silent minority or the silent majority or whatever, and it's just
that's
like,
the dumbest shit in the fucking world. Like,
Yeah,
how the fuck how do you not have a voice with most people? Like, it doesn't even make sense.
No, for real. And also, how do you lose elections popular vote wise by, like, fucking 3 million, 5 million this time, and then be like, majority? We're the majority.
Yeah, we're the majority. Right. Yeah, no,
Shit.
that's that.
But anyway,
like that.
Long story short,
We'll see.
Fuck this girl. Next.
Stamped.
We'll see if Warner Brothers decides that they want to distance themselves from Gina Carano going forward. But
This is right? That's the Mando.
No, this is Disney. This is Disney. You're right. Yeah, this is Disney. This is Disney. We'll see.
So
we'll see if they want. We'll see. We'll see how they treat it going forward. But over at Warner Brothers, they've been making some risky moral decisions as well. Moving in a little bit into our movie news, Johnny Depp and Amber Heard and the Fantastic Beasts situation that's going on here. Jake, can you dissect this story a little bit for us?
Yeah, this is a fantastic beast of a story.
Really?
According to THR, which is something, it's a blog. Depp filmed only one scene of Fantastic Beasts 3 since production started on September 20th, but will receive his full 8-figure salary, which comes in at $10 million due from the actor's contract. And so the dude doesn't even have to work. He filmed one scene, which was probably like one day, and Daddy Depp's still going to take home $10 million, which I think is fucking hilarious. Depp's contract stipulates that he must be paid in full for his salary, even if the movie isn't made or if his role is recast, which it possibly may be by Mad Mikkelsen, which has been the rumors so far. It's it's referred to as a pay or play contract, which I'm going to actually start signing those everywhere I go from now on. This is common for big Hollywood stars. Apparently Leo and Pitt and, like all these other white males get to do it all the time. Meanwhile, Amber Heard is set to return not just for Justice League, but for Aquaman 2. It was recently revealed that Amber Heard, returned as Mira for Zack Snyder's Justice League reshoots, which all but confirmed that she is still involved with the DC Extended Universe. In an interview with Entertainment Weekly, not only did she confirm her involvement with Aquaman 2, but she shared her excitement for it as well. She said that she was super excited about the amount of fan love and the amount of fan appreciation that Aquaman has received, and that's garnered so much excitement for Aquaman and Mira that that means that she'll be coming back, and I'm excited to film that. The Aquaman star also addressed the various rumors and petitions that have been circulating online in the last few months, claiming her departure. She called them paid rumors, and paid campaigns on social media don't dictate casting decisions because they have no bias or basis in reality. Only the fans actually made Aquaman and Aquaman 2 happen. I'm excited to get started with it next year. And so she literally has it set now in her head that there's actually been paid ads and paid rumors spread that she was leaving so that it would push her into leaving, or that they may be able to push her out, kind of per se. So anyway, what do you guys think about Amber Heard coming back for the Snyder Cut and Aquaman 2? Is this something we should really still care about? I know that it's kind of come out of the wash that she was kind of more abusive to Depp than Depp was to her. But then there's some that still say some of the stuff Depp did was kind of abusive too. There's been a lot of back and forth here. Is this just some inner squabble that we should all just why are we keeping up the Kardashians here? Or is it really something that we should just cancel both these people over and go on? What is it what do you guys think about this whole situation, I guess?
I mean,
start with you, Dodd.
I can't divorce Amber Heard from the situation after seeing looking at a lot of the stuff that she did going into it.
Oh yeah, the false accusations and shit. It's obviously damaging.
And well, not only that, but also the retaliatory shit that she did back to him.
Yeah.
And so I think that's going to be hard for me to look back into. And I think that it's going to be hard for me to look at Johnny Depp as well. The thing here is that Amber Heard's the one that's getting a lot of success from Warner Brothers. She's not getting, her projects taken away from her. Not that I think Johnny Depp ever needs a bone tossed towards him. He's Johnny fucking Depp. He'll do just fucking fine. Yeah. Right. I don't think he deserves that. But what I'm more bummed about is that Amber Heard's going to be in Aquaman 2, and I'm gonna not like Aquaman 2. If I want to go see Aquaman 2, I'm gonna have that kind of bad taste in the back of my mouth.
Do her and Jason Momoa somehow yin and yang each other fucking out? You know what I mean? Because it's she's shitty, but you're Jason Momoa though.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah. I mean, it's how do you feel? No, how do you feel, Kev?
I think it's a mess, but I'm like you. I think there's been so much that's been revealed recently where it's oh, wait a minute here. Johnny Depp, Amber Heard is pretty culpable in all this, or a majority of this, and there's something here that we know we might need to pay attention to. And with Johnny Depp, like we were talking, he's gonna be fine, right? He just made $10 million for not working. Like I wish I could have that deal with it.
Yeah. I'm more concerned about how Aquaman 2 is ruined than anything happening to Johnny Depp's career or anything else like that. I mean, he's a rich celebrity. Like I have hardly any sympathy for him there. The fact that Amber Heard is kind of getting away with all the stuff that she's doing and just being able to push it off as paid campaigns. Like she said, only the fans made Aquaman and Aquaman 2 happen. Well, you know what? Only the fans made all those damn petitions.
Right.
Right. So I think that should be adhered to. I mean, I'm usually pretty hard on the side of canceling anybody that shows this level of toxicity. So that's all I can say about that.
Right.
Well, we will continue to follow it.
We'll see where it goes. Yeah,
we'll see where it goes.
Disney has also removed Free Guys from its release schedule, and as well as another movie as well. Kev, you have a little more info on this story for us. Tell us a little about this.
That's right, God. Disney has removed 2 upcoming films, Free Guy and Death on the Nile, from its 2020 release schedule. Both films were set to be released sometime in December, but no longer have an official release date attached. Free Guy, which stars Ryan Reynolds, as a video game NPC who gains awareness of his life, was set to be released on December 11th, 2020. Sad face. The same applies to Kenneth Branagh's Murder on the Orient Express sequel, Death of the Nile. The murder mystery movie was set to be released on December 18th, 2020, but has also been removed from the 2020 release calendar schedule. Guys, a lot of shit is getting canceled, not just Gina Carano and possibly Amber Heard. A lot of our upcoming content, shows, movies, things that we want to consume during quarantine and the pandemic is also being canceled or not released. How do you guys feel about this somber news?
I'm pretty bummed about it because this is one that I thought. I mean, this was something that was already done filming from my understanding of it, and this is something
this is a money move.
Yeah,
right. This isn't a COVID thing. This is, well, I mean, it is a COVID thing, but it's not a COVID delay. Right. Well, it is a COVID delay.
It's not a COVID production delay.
It's not delayed because,
it's not a production delay. That's what I was trying to get. Right. It's definitely a money thing. Like, because this movie's done. We've seen they even started pumping out trailers because they were getting ready to make this a December release. And so it's done. They just don't want to show it this year because they won't make their money on it. And so they're holding off until next year when hopefully theaters are back up and going.
What do we got to do to make people start doing video on demand? We just got to we got a petition for everybody to go buy Onward right now, full copy, so that they can show that this was a success,
if it didn't happen during a global pandemic, in which AMC was literally showing movies for 64 cents, it's not happening.
If we didn't have to save the post office, we could have saved AMC.
That's true.
It's going to be so interesting to see what happens with theaters, and it's going to be really more interesting to see what these kind of guys, what they do if theaters don't come back next year the way that they think they will, because they're holding off on these video on demands because they're thinking that there's going to be some huge resurgence and boom, which if they know something we don't, go buy stock in AMC right now, and then you can thank me later.
For real.
That's true.
Well,
hold on, I got to go buy stock in AMC.
Well, maybe Constantine could bring AMC back from the dead here, because Keanu Reeves is talking about Constantine 2 possibly happening. Jake, you got a little bit more on this story. Tell us a little bit about what's going on with Keanu Reeves and Constantine 2. Just tell us about Keanu Reeves and how he's doing and how his day's been.
Is he okay?
Keanu's good. Keanu's great. Actually, he has definitely been doing it and doing it well. Constantine 2, a follow-up of the 2005 movie starring none other than Keanu Reeves, is in the works, according to Peter Stormare, who played Lucifer in the original film, which honestly was a fucking he stole the show as Satan in that show. I don't know, like, or in that movie, with the oil dripping from his feet, the all white suit. Anyway, Stoudemire, who also appeared in Fargo, Armageddon, American Gods, where he played Thor, John Wick 2, and a number of video games, including Destiny and Destiny 2, was a standout in the DC Comics adaptation. Despite being panned by critics and comic book fans alike upon its release, Constantine has been reevaluated in recent years, especially since Reeves has had a major resurgence in his career, partly to the John Wick franchise. Some of you will remember the brief 13-episode series that was part of the Arrowverse that got canned back in 2015. It wasn't a terrible show, but it didn't have Keanu in it, so fans really didn't come, like knocking down the door for it. I'm personally happy that Keanu's been crushing it. Some of my favorite movies were the Bill and Ted franchise. I was so happy they got another one of those. Constantine, I've probably seen this movie more than a dozen times just because I loved it so much. What is her name that plays Gabriel as well? Dude, now I'm drawing a blank.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, but this is it's great news. I'm excited that with all these other cancellations, at least some other things are going full steam ahead. And that includes like Keanu's career, right? This dude's just like one of the greatest dudes in Hollywood. So I'm so excited that he's just continuing to crush it. And I can't wait to see him in Cyberpunk 2027 or 2020, whatever the fuck it's going to be too. So Dodd, how stoked are you to see some more Constantine?
I'm pretty stoked. Keanu is the only person that's made 2020 we fell in love with him well before 2020, right? The big internet crush on him was before 2020, right? Yeah.
He's just he did that quote right there, that you're wonderful. That was when they were packed out in auditoriums last year. Yeah. So like we've been loving on Keanu since, like I said, the John Wick. I think John Wick caused a huge resurgence in Keanu's career.
Right. And so I think that Constantine was one of those kind of lost gems that we really need to. We'd really like to see kind of redone, and we'd really like to see a sequel. I did like Matt Ryan's Constantine, and Matt Ryan's Constantine in Arrowverse lived on. One, that was a part of like NBC's verse, and then it got revived on Arrowverse.
Yeah.
And so, and it was just because Matt Ryan's character was so good, and the shitty writing of NBC, it was able to survive the shitty writing of NBC and move on and have a life of its own after that. And is still a character on Legends of Tomorrow, from what I understand. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I really liked Matt Ryan's Constantine. Constantine, I think, is a really cool staple character. It's got a lot of good bisexual representation there with Constantine, so I think that's awesome, and I'd love to see Keanu kind of fill that role and kind of play that character out more. So, let's see it happen.
Did you ever see? You're a Constantine fan, right?
Yeah, I love John, especially in Legends of Tomorrow and the whole Arrowverse thing. I thought Matt Ryan did a pretty good job. I think it was weird at first bringing him into Legends of Tomorrow. I mean, Legends of Tomorrow is sort of like a wacky show in general. They're just kind of all over the place, and they know that. But I like anything Matt Ryan does. Nods to what we were talking about earlier, Black Flag. He was. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, this is just what DC's kind of had trouble with. They don't have the same scope as like the Marvel Cinematic Universe or the Marvel Universe does in general. So like the DC Universe and the DC TV Universe and all that stuff, it's all kind of segmented, and there's not really too much continuity. But Keanu Reeves and bringing back Constantine, which the Constantine movie, the first one was pretty good. I mean, I remember I watched it. I was young. I was a kid, but I remember enjoying it. So anything Keanu Reeves is going to be in, I'm here for. And again, John Constantine.
Rewatch Constantine tonight because of how good this is. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to catch you off.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, like, I think it's just good to bring back Constantine. Just keep him around. He's a good staple character.
And they set it up for a sequel, like in the movie. Like they give him the out with the. And this shouldn't be spoiler alerts, by the way. Constantine's fucking phenomenal. Yeah, 15 years. You should have seen it by now. But like Satan reaches into him and grabs the cancer out and is like, fuck that. You're not going to heaven, you son of a bitch. Like, And so like it's one of those where it kind of like set it up for him to continue fighting demons, which is like, dude, I believe it had Shia LaBeouf as the cab driver, and it was one of the things where like he drops the mirror on it during that whole like that's right there in the beginning of it. And so like that scene with the exorcism as a kid, that shit scared me so much. But the fact that he kills it with the mirror was like, I can kill demons. Like I was like, I can do that. So like, anyway, love John Constantine. Excited to hear it coming back, and excited to see Keanu still doing well.
Yeah, it is. It is. Well, moving right along into the world of video games, Pokemon Go and Pokemon Pokemon Go and Pokemon Home transfers are open. Freudian slip there. Yeah, they're open for a price, for a big price actually. First started rolling out to level 40 players in Pokemon Go, but a brief explanation of like the Pokemon Go and the Pokemon Home transfer. Basically, you have it's basically a money pit is what it is. It will take about so. You use a transporter in Pokemon Go to transport your Pokemon into Pokemon Home. For those of you who don't know what Pokemon Home is basically the new storage space within the Pokemon universe to store all your Pokemon from Sword and Shield, from Pokemon Go now, from Let's Go Eevee. You can all put them all in one place. You can have your whole shiny collection, and that's where you're keeping all of your Pokemon, from here moving forward, pretty much. Now, the new process to transfer from Pokemon Go to Pokemon Home was rolled out to level 40 players early this week, and roughly this is how it goes. It takes about 7 days to charge a transporter that if you to be able to transfer your Pokemon from Pokemon Go to Pokemon Home. Now, in order to use that transporter, like you can wait a week or you can charge that transporter up by paying the cost of 1,000 coins, which is about the equivalent of about $10. Now, so the transporter, you can only transport about a certain number of Pokemon, and that number of Pokemon goes down drastically if they're shiny and drastically if they're legendary. So if you want to transfer, one shiny Groudon over from Pokemon Go to Pokemon Home, it's probably going to take you, if you want to transfer like 3 of those over, it's probably going to take you about 3 weeks to do it if you don't want to pay $10 in between in order to get those moved over here. Honestly, it's the biggest money grab that in any Pokemon game that anyone has ever seen. This Pokemon Go to Pokemon Home connectivity was something that they've been planning for a long time. They talked about this at the beginning of the year, like when they were talking about the DLC expansions for Pokemon Sword and Shield back when we're pre-pandemic. They were talking about that eventually you're going to be able to transfer your Pokemon from Pokemon Go to Pokemon Home, and to have it rolled out this way is honestly it's absurd. I mean, like it's one of the biggest ripoffs that has ever happened to the Pokemon community, and it's one of the biggest money grabs that's out there. I hope that this gets reversed, but honestly, like, Niantic has, been a bit of a money grab in the past. They had their best year this year. It doesn't seem. It doesn't make much sense. I can't really give much of a defense for Niantic here. It seems like microtransactions at its worst. What do you guys think about this? Jake, let's start with you.
Yeah, so I thought like it's crazy that this story is just now coming out because I already thought this was a thing. I fell off because it's like when I first started playing Pokemon Sword and Shield, blasted through it, had a great time, thought it was a great game, had a lot of fun. When the DLC first dropped, I think the first one was the Isle of whatever or something, right? And so went over, got my headband karate chopping rabbit thing. And like
Reboot.
was doing this whole thing, right? And was loving it. And then started to do the whole like, oh shit, I can transfer Pokemon from, Let's Go Pikachu, all that stuff. Like, let me transfer these guys. Then I found out like I couldn't transfer any Pokemon from Pokemon Go. Because when Pokemon Home came out, I was like, this is a game changer. I'm going to get some of my Pokemon Go guys onto, Sword and Shield. This is going to be great. Then it was like, oh no, that's not available yet. And I was like, all right, cool. Well, then I fell off playing. And I assumed this had already came out. And so the fact that it just now came out is crazy, and the fact that the process is such a bitch is even crazier. Like it does not entice me to jump back into Pokemon, to say the least.
Yeah, it's crazy expensive. Kev, what do you think about this?
Yeah, it just seems a little bit too extra for me. Like, I'm not gonna spend the time or money to do it. I'm just gonna enjoy. I haven't really even been playing Pokemon Go, so that's not something that is on my radar, and I haven't got Sword and Shield yet. But when I do, I don't plan on having them sort of merge together and be cohesive. Like this is something I could do without. I'm like Jake though. I fell off of this. I thought this had been out, and when you're reading this, I just had this weird. I kind of drifted off a little bit, thinking like, wow, where did we all go wrong with microtransactions? Because it just seems like every time we come on this show or anything we talk about, there has to be some sort of egregious microtransaction story, and it's just like, is this the Black Mirror episode? Like, is this another Black Mirror episode? And I don't think we're going back anytime soon because it's too late. People are willing to pay for it, and that's why it exists.
They make that money.
Yep.
So,
yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Speaking of making money.
Speaking of making money, it's launch week for Xbox Series X and PS5 this week.
Is it though?
Kevin, tell us a little bit about how launch week went for everybody.
For you in particular, Kevin.
For me, okay, well, continuing off the theme of last week, i.e. failure to launch. Let's see. We'll start with the most damning. Scalpers already reselling Xboxes for well over $1,000 on eBay. StockX. You know what? When I saw it on StockX, when I saw I got an email from StockX. It was saying trade consoles. I was like, trade consoles, huh? And I saw, the graphic with the Xbox Series X and a PS5. And my heart just sunk into my chest. And I was like, oh, this is how the world ends, not with a whimper, but people shoveling out thousands of dollars for a fucking $500 console.
That will restock.
That's the crazy. And here's the thing. People don't buy this. I'm just going to get on my soapbox here for a second, if you don't mind. Don't buy this. This would be the dumbest fuck. And I'm talking to you rich kids, because you're the ones that are buying this. Do not buy this. There's no content. There are no launch games for these systems. There is no reason to buy this, have it immediately, other than just to have it. And what you're going to do is, when you buy this, you incentivize scalpers to keep doing it. And don't get me wrong, I respect everyone's hustle to an extent. But when you start hustling me, we got a problem. So just stay away from this. Let them sit on. I saw a TikTok where some dude had like 10 PS5 stacked on his stairwell, and he was filming. He had like a GameStop plug or something like that. And it just feels so gross, because it's like, you can't, like, this is such a culture killer. It's really deep, like, inflating the value of what these things actually are. Like, this isn't these aren't fucking golden eggs or treasured art pieces. They're going to come out with more in stock eventually, because it only serves Microsoft and Sony to make more. They're not getting paid. They're not getting kickbacks.
These ain't Red Octobers.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Right. They're not getting kickbacks on resells. Yeah. So, I think people are just taking advantage of desperation. And again, just the launch culture and the immediacy of we got to have it now, right? I remember last year, the Popeye chicken sandwich, people were fucking reselling those on Facebook Marketplace for $40.
Like, that chicken sandwich is damn good.
It is. But someone got shot over it.
Somebody got shot over it. So that.
But was it a spicy one?
I don't know. Maybe.
Maybe like, I'm going to take a gunshot.
It was the last one.
I might go get some Popeyes after this, y'all.
To end my rant, I would just say, let these people have their endless inventory and figure out how the fuck they're going to resell these things. Because I ain't buying it. Neither should you. No. Sony and Microsoft will eventually make sure everyone can have one. They want you to buy it through them. Trust me. PS5, going on to some other news. PS5 had some overheating bugs, as we sort of mentioned last week. There's been reports about trying to essentially tell people not to worry, giving you advice on where to store your PlayStation. For instance, not in confined spaces or glass metal boxes. So yeah, there's that there.
About that have been great. Have you guys seen those?
I have
the PS5 where it was like, the PS5 is too hot. It may be overheating, and then it'll go to like the PS5, and then it'll just show a picture of just some gorgeous, attractive human. Like that's how hot it is.
It's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but that being said, overheating. Miles Morales does look fucking amazing in the new Spider-Man game, which I am actually looking forward to playing that.
Have you guys seen some of the streams of that though?
No, I haven't.
Like the way the movement in there is just crazy. Like you'll see him.
It's like the animation from the movie. Yeah.
It looks
Kevin,
absolutely breathtaking.
You were actually wrong. There is a launch title for the PS5 that I believe is worth paying over $1,000 for, and that's Bugsnax. I don't know if you can. But think about that. Think about that for a minute right now. Like if you're buying a PlayStation 5 for $1,500, which is what I've seen them going for on eBay in some places, right? Fucking $1,500. People are buying that straight up on eBay. You're essentially buying a console that can only play Bugsnax and Spider-Man Miles Morales right now. That's like, I mean, it can play the other games. Don't get me wrong, right? PS4 games, but like that's the only two that it can play that the PS4 can't.
Yeah. But have you seen the gameplay in Miles Morales?
Here's to that, Dot. You're not even going to get the specs from these new systems unless you have a TV capable of handling like 120 refresh. 120
and you got to have an HDMI cord. So that's the other thing too. A lot of people don't even realize that. Some people just plug in their old HDMI and then they're just like, "Oh yeah, 4K, bro." And it's like, no, you're pushing a little better, but you didn't get the right.
Yeah, you're not maximizing it, right? Yeah. So there's really. I remember we talked about this too on the last show, where it's like there hasn't really been a console launch that's been worth getting day one since like N64. Or maybe Xbox. I'd say no, Xbox and PlayStation 2, right? Those were phenomenal. But like, think about Xbox 360. I remember that came out like you didn't have solid games till like 2 years in.
It took a minute. Right. 360 ended up being one of the better consoles for Xbox, but in the beginning, it was a complete fucking disaster.
Yeah. Do y'all ever remember trying to get a Wii when it first came out, and it was like you had to get it from like
Nintendo's
a drug dealer. You had to get it from like some dude with like an overcoat.
Dude, I stood in line and watched someone get arrested at a Best Buy to get a Wii, and I got mine in 2008 when I think Smash Brothers Brawl came out. Me and my good buddy Darrell were like just waiting in line in fucking cold winter trying to get this Wii at 8 o'clock in the morning when Best Buy opened up. So yeah, the Wii was hard to get. And speaking of hard to get Nintendo systems, the Switch still remains supreme. Speaking of launches, Hype Beast may have gotten that joke. The firm puts, the latest figures from MPD, the firm puts Switch sales, including the standard and light models, at 735,000 units in the U.S., making the best October for a Nintendo console since the Wii sold 807,000 units in October 2008. It's been a good couple of years for the Switch, which has marked 23 straight months as the best-selling console in the States. It is in its own reporting, Nintendo adds that the company has sold more than 63 million units to date. Guys, is Nintendo the GOAT at this? Like, did they just get it? Like, what are they doing that the other guys aren't?
Obviously.
To me, it's casual, bro. It's that casual gaming. It's so much more. It's got a much larger mass appeal. But the only downside is that it's two different business models, and people don't even think about it. People do think about it. I don't mean to sound that as like pretentious. I just don't think people realize it. It's Nintendo goes for like a more general casual gamer with a lower spec console that they can then push at a lower cost, right? Yeah. If you ever saw a Nintendo that costs $500, there's a fucking problem. Like,
scalpers.
And so it's just one of those where like they push a less quality product because they don't need to have 1080p, 4K, fucking 60 frames on Mario. You know, like they're just like, which it would look cool. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But they don't need it. They don't need it. Mario Odyssey looked gorgeous.
It's the IP that they have.
It's their IP. That's their value.
It's their first party properties. It's Mario. It's Pokemon. It's
Zelda.
It's Animal Crossing. It's Zelda. You know, like those. If you look at the games, if you look at 2020 as a year as far as video games go, and you look at some of the most successful video games this year, and if you don't talk about Animal Crossing, Among Us, or Fall Guys, you're not being relevant. You're not being relevant to what's going on in 2020 and what's going on there. And so that's the rise of the casual gamer. That's the rise of you know, those, like, none of those games are, I mean, Among Us is 7 years old. It's 2D.
Yeah.
You know, Fall Guys is nice. It does look really well, but it's a world made of fucking marshmallows. Like
it's very simplistic. There's not a lot going on. And to sort of piggyback off what you're saying, I remember me and my friends had this discussion while we were playing. So my friend was asking me, my other buddy, he was like, why is it, I don't understand how people keep buying Nintendo games. They release the same game every year, every console. And mind you, we're talking about this while playing NBA 2K. The irony was lost on him. But no, and me and my good buddy Joe were like, because they have IPs that are, one, nostalgia driven, two, they're like, they have so much flexibility with like Jake was saying, with the casual gamer and even the hardcore gamers. And three, they just do a phenomenal job. They don't. It's not the same game released every year. It's the same characters, it's the same IP, but it's a different game, which speaks to the creativity of Nintendo. Like, they'll take Mario, and then okay, you know what? This year he's got it. Right. Yeah. He's got a water jetpack, and then next year he's in space, and now he can travel dimensions. Like, you know what? Like, he's got a lot of
take over T-Rexes.
Right. He does everything but plumbing, but that's another topic.
Link, like, we're gonna do Mask this time. Mask is gonna be our thing, and then we're gonna have a cap that talks to you, and then next one you get a magic iPad. You know, like, you know, that was Zelda. Zelda's just going. It's just Link doing the same 4 things he always does, just a different skin on it each time.
Yeah. What they take is they take these indie artsy games like an Ori, was it Blind Forest or games like that, and then but they make it like expansive. Like, they take like an artistic indie developed game, and then they turned it into a AAA title. And I think that's something that other sort of like Nintendo and Microsoft don't really, they just don't have that in them.
Yeah, I think the Switch is still going to end up being the winner here. Like, at the end of the day, like, I think the Xbox Series X is going to sell a lot. The PlayStation 5 is going to sell a lot. The people who want them are going to get them. But the Switch is still going to be the go.
Yeah. You know why? Because there's a Breath of the Wild 2 in the works.
Yep.
There is another unannounced Pokemon game that's on the horizon that's going to be announced on Pokemon Day in 2021. We already know that we've seen a bunch of stuff there. Yeah.
There's talk of an actual 4K Switch coming out too, which would be crazy.
It's gonna be nuts. Yeah.
Like, which would be nuts. If you wanted to get that 60 frames on a Switch, like they're talking about, they may make one. So
there you go. You can watch me play Pokemon in 4K. Why would anybody do that? I don't know, but you know,
you can see the sweat on Ash Ketchum's head.
Yeah, you can see the sweat on my head when I lose another UGA match. But speaking of losing, Marvel's Avengers has lost 96% of its players. 96%.
The Purge.
This keeps just getting worse for the Avengers. After delayed DLC content and a reduction of 87% of the players on Steam over one weekend, 100,190 players were playing actively on Marvel's Avengers Online, which was drastically less than the game had at launch, obviously. It said that even further less, averaged about 752 players online during November so far, which is dismal. That is absolutely dismal. Yeah. Crystal Dynamics confirmed a huge $50 million loss for the quarter that included the sale of Marvel's Avengers. Marvel's Avengers, I think, accounts for about $63 million loss total. there's a whole why is this happening, you may ask. There's a whole bunch of reasons. Okay, one, the story is super short and it's not really that great of one. I played through it. You can watch all 6 of the playthroughs on my channel, but again, I was able to complete that story in 6 playthroughs while doing all kinds of every little side mission I could. Okay, I gave up after 13 playthroughs of Ghost of Tsushima. And those were at least 4-hour playthroughs each. Some of the playthroughs I did on Avengers were less than 2-hour playthroughs. So you just burn through the story super duper quickly. There's a lot of hunting. A lot of, running around finding objects and, like, over here, there's a guy that you want to beat up and you can get more armor. Like, it's just really kind of fetch questy. Poor matchmaking, complex leveling systems, plus a complete lack of new content. This just got old really, really quickly. Yeah. Recently, it was revealed that Spider-Man on PS5 removed content that connected it to the Avengers game because they were going to have a crossover because they decided that they don't want that Spider-Man to be the same Spider-Man as the one in Avengers. And at this point, good. Keep Miles Morales and that Spider-Man universe separate from the abomination that is the Avengers game right now. Plus, it wouldn't make themselves. It wouldn't make too much sense either because of a lot of the story choices that go on with the Avengers as well. Yeah. But Kev, at this point, Crystal Dynamics' flop here may even prevent us from seeing another Avengers game in the future, which I don't want to happen. Like, right? Yeah. Like the idea of having an awesome Avengers game. I want to see prospects of it in the future. But it's kind of hard to see it after a game like this tanks so hard by, the same people that did Final Fantasy?
Fantasy, Lara Croft, the list goes on and on. A lot of great games, a lot of great content. Yeah, I'm going to be honest. When I saw this at E3, I wasn't really excited about it. It just looked weird. I remember there was it was like one of these things like Captain America looked off. And again, these are like little Tony sort Stark of, I guess, weird. Yeah, Tony Stark. There was like little aesthetic sort of irregularities that just didn't seem right. And I looked at it, I was like, this is something, but I'm not overly hyped about it. And I am surprised that Square Enix has dropped sort of a dud here. That I think that's the most surprising. But God damn, 96% of your users. That's a dead game, and I don't know what they can do well, they're not going to. They've lost $50 million on this. They're just going to cut their losses.
This is like an Anthem all over again. Yeah. Like Anthem was another game that was AAA title, but then this may be even worse because this is coming in a year where we had no Marvel movies, no Marvel shows. Nope. This was basically the only representation of Marvel that was, entertainment that came out this year. And it was a complete and utter fucking disaster. Like, I watched Dodd play it. And just even watching your stream, Dodd, whenever you played it a few times, I was just like, there's just nothing that enticed me about playing the game.
Yeah, it looked fun. It was fun to fly around as Iron Man.
It was fun to smash. Yeah, but then it looked like after literally it just felt like doing the same thing over and over. Like I felt like after the story, I would be done with it. But the story wasn't enough for a $60 game.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely not. Yeah. And if there was more stuff coming out, they have all these different characters that they have in the metadata that they know exist in there, Scarlet Witch and Ant-Man and all this stuff. Yep. If you're gonna build these cool stories, I mean, you had how many? I can count the number of villains in the Marvel Avengers game on one hand, and most of them you saw in most of them as either the main villain. Yeah. No, honestly, it's only Abomination, Taskmaster, and MODOK. That's it. Yeah. That's it in the Avengers game. And it was just overall a lackluster experience. It was don't get me wrong. I loved flying around as Tony Stark. That was a lot of fun, and being able to team up with somebody else and play that with someone was pretty fun when you're gonna kind of tag teaming, really difficult levels. Yeah. But that's it. That was really it. And if there just wasn't much more after the story. Seeing it tank like this is really disappointing.
So, Dad, would you say the worst part of the game is there's just not enough content or original Marvel IP in the game?
Yeah, definitely.
So that to me sounds like it might have been a licensing issue. I bet what happened was Marvel was like, "Here, we're gonna have you make this game, and then contingent on how well this does, we'll roll out some sort of more licensing of our IP and characters." I mean, that's my thinking. You know how Marvel's sort of kind of interweb of licensed IP is tricky anyway, with X-Men, Spider-Man, and the other cast of characters living separately. So there might be some sort of thing going on there. But I saw Fattest Sacks mention make Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 for the Switch, or more than that. You know, I'm on board for that, because this to me seems like it was a game that would have came out 2 generations ago and would have been fun, you know. But where we're at now, it's like lipstick on a pig. It looks pretty, but there's not enough meat on the bone for anybody.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah,
I would rather go if Marvel Ultimate Alliance had the same skin that this Marvel game had, where you had the story that Marvel Ultimate Alliance had.
Yeah,
that would be the perfect Avengers game right there. That's a great formula.
I just wanted a Spider-Man, the Spider-Man game style, but with the Avengers, with I get to pick the different Avengers. They all kind of maybe even have different stories. There could be so much replayability. I could play it maybe even with friends. There's so many cool things they could have done here. And it feels like they touched on them, right? Because I think flying around as Iron Man looked cool. Smashing shit as Hulk looked dope. You know, raining down lightning as Thor. You know, there's so many cool things.
I would want to fly over the city and just go around New York as Iron Man. There's not a chance to do that.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. I wanted an open world, Iron Man style game. I said, I wanted the Spider-Man meets these Avengers kind of and they could be the first Avengers. They could be DLC. They could make me pay for extra stories whenever they announce a fucking Hawkeye one or some stupid shit.
Yeah.
And so there's all kinds of things there. But I don't who are running these studios, man? God damn.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and it's hard to how do you follow up with just how they ended the Marvel universe, right? You can't have a lackluster title come out after the Infinity War and Endgame.
And for this to fall on its face in this year of all years, it's pretty telling. So
yeah, that's true
for sure.
What else do people have to do?
Facts.
Well, moving right along, because we are running short on time here. BioWare confirms there's a new Mass Effect game in the works. Jake, tell us a little bit what's going on with the new Mass Effect game.
Yeah, the news was announced by BioWare Studios general manager Casey Hudson in a blog post celebrating N7 Day on November 7th. Meanwhile, here at BioWare, a veteran team has been hard at work envisioning the next chapter of the Mass Effect universe, Hudson shared. We are in the early stages of the project and can't say much more just yet, but we're looking forward to sharing our vision for where we'll be going next. Hudson adds that thank you very much for your support over the years. I can't wait to continue our adventure together, revisiting our favorite memories in the Mass Effect universe and creating brand new ones. Not much else is known about the upcoming installment, but fans will be hoping it could either be a continuation of the Legend of Commander Shepard, or at least a chance to redeem the generally disappointing Mass Effect Andromeda that came out in 2017. This is also coming on the heels of a new announcement of the remastered versions of the original trilogy. Confirmed in a tweet earlier this week, BioWare said, "Your choices, your squad, your Shepard, relive the legends in a remastered edition of the highly acclaimed trilogy. Mass Effect Legendary Edition arrives spring 2021. So it looks like we're going to be getting an all-new remastered Mass Effect trilogy, which I'm all here for. First off, that's a great original trilogy that I highly suggest anybody play for. And then it also sounds like we're going to be getting what could be a continuation for Mass Effect Andromeda, which was plagued with bugs in the beginning, but as somebody who played this game way after it came out, gave it plenty of time to get some patches, it was not a bad game. And Kevin, I know you got my back on this too.
Yeah.
A lot of people shit on Andromeda, but I'm going to be the one to say that it was not a terrible game. It's really not overall. And so I'm excited for a new Mass Effect. The last one, Andromeda, did not kill the series for me like it did for some fans. And so I'm excited to hear that there may be another game for Commander Shepard on the horizon.
Yeah, I was super ecstatic about this because I was borderline depressed when I found out that this is also why I was very hard on Anthem, because they pulled a lot of people from that BioWare team to make that game, which is why the Andromeda game was lackluster. But yeah, I really hope this is like they're getting back to their roots here, because and like you said, Jake, Andromeda was great. It was really good in my opinion. If I had to compare them, as far as the story concerned, it wasn't the best, but as far as gameplay, it was the best playable game to me.
The most refined.
The most refined. And again, it was the only one on the current gen consoles, right? So as it should be. True. But again, just like with that sort of engine, with what they were doing with the gameplay mechanics and BioWare's history for being able to develop characters and tell great stories, I had so much like hope for that, and I'm just like, can we just get back to that? I hope they pull a Destiny and like distance themselves from EA, because once they went to EA, shit just started going south. But yeah, like I mean, I am so excited and ready for this. I need this. I'm excited for the remastered version. I'm definitely going to play that again, because I've been wanting to play through Mass Effect from the beginning anyway. So now I'm going to have even more incentive to do so. So yeah, just, if they don't continue Commander Shepard's story, fine. If they do, fine. I've moved on from sort of that bullshit of an ending. But I'd like to see what they do with Andromeda. That's another reason I was disappointed, because they definitely, the way they set it up and the way they ended, it wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible, and it had a lot of promise and potential going forward. It was something that it was kind of refreshing in a way.
What's going to be really cool, and this would be classic Mass Effect, is if they allowed you to play the 3 remastered, play Andromeda, and then the decisions from those games roll over into the newest one. Right. Because if you had one of the previous saves, even in Andromeda, it would remember that part of the story, or you could just pick the story you wanted it to go with, right?
Yeah.
But but if you actually had those saves, it would remember that part of the story and continue it on. And so I think it's going to be really interesting if they allow us to kind of line them all up like that and play through this entire those 3 Andromeda and then a brand new one, and kind of just make this entire universe in a way. That would be great.
Right.
I would be that would be so much fun.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a shitload of game to play through.
Yeah.
It is. Well, with the capabilities of these consoles, they've got more room to sort of create and make that space. Pun intended.
Yeah. Well, we've got some other news as well that I want to get to. Twitch apologizes for some unnecessary DMCA takedowns. Finally, Jake, can you update us a little bit about what Twitch said about the DMCA takedowns?
Real quick, Twitch finally spoke up about the DMCA, related bans that they were handing out to streamers on the platform. The DMCA drama escalated in the later half of 2020, with streamers being banned for old videos that featured any form of licensed music. This resulted in the suspensions of big-time streamers such as Felix XGC Legional, and where they even said that they were willing to buy music to avoid the copyright strikes. On November 11th, Twitch issued a statement telling streamers that they understood their frustration and that it was completely justified, which, by the way, as somebody who does PR, that's step 1. So don't ever believe that bullshit. It's just admitting that you did something wrong is the easiest way to disarm people. And so things can be and should be better for creators, and they have been recently, is what Twitch stated. So they gave themselves a pat on the back. Moving forward, we'll be more transparent with what's happening and what tools and resources we'll be giving you to help, or building to help. And so they're going to be building some dope resources for us. And I believe we even got hit with a DMCA for our outro song, which was just an 8-bit version of Radio Video by System of a Down. So we've even kind of seen some of this, but so it will be nothing but Beats by Kev going forward. So, but yeah, so that's the skinny on Twitch giving out a kind of an apology, I guess, for the DMCA takedowns. They're saying they're going to be building some stuff that's going to help streamers in the future. I mean, honestly, if you're a streamer and you're watching this, I would err on the side of caution and look at, royalty-free music that you can use. Find you a guy like Kevin who can make dope beats.
Hit me up.
Yeah, hit up Kev. You can get yourself. And so, even look, I believe there's even some artists like T-Pain who we covered in the past who said, that some of their songs they were going to make available for streamers to use because he looked at it as free promotion. So there's ways around it. Just try to avoid songs that you think have a copyright. That's the only thing we can say right now.
Absolutely. Well, also in other news, there's really no way to transition to this next story. They got freaking laser beams on fighter jets now. Kev, tell us a little bit what's going on with this.
Pew, pew, pew. Yeah, so like something out of G.I. Joe or even Star Wars, the U.S. Air Force is working with aerospace defense firm Lockheed Martin to deploy lasers on fighter jets by 2025. Program even has a super comic booky title going by SHIELD, yes, with a lowercase I, aka Self-Protect High Energy Laser Demonstrator.
Really?
It's very reminiscent of Hydra turncoat Grant Ward's quote on Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. when he said it. It means someone really wanted our initials to spell out SHIELD. National Defense explains the SHIELD is a pod-mounted laser on the fuselage or wing of a fighter jet designed to shoot down incoming air-to-air, surface-to-air missiles. Guys, is this gonna be? Are we like on the brink of having X-wings next, or is this where our tax dollars need to go to right now?
Well, look, I believe it. Do you remember when Obama came out and said that we're working on a secret weapon, and it's Iron Man? And he was joking, and he was like made that joke, and we're like, aha, that's what it's like to have a president that's cool and fun. One, where is that? Okay, did Trump fuck that up? Did that whole project go to the wayside? Did we drop the Iron Man project? Where did that go? Okay, couldn't fit it in. No. Maybe because they were too focused on making laser beams. I don't know, but. It's possible that this could be a side project. The Iron Man suit, they got the arc reactor going, and so they started weaponizing the arc reactor and making laser beams. I don't know. But it was too sci-fi of a story not to put on the showdown, And
it reminds me of the Reagan-era Star Wars thing.
Right.
We're going to make a missile defense system, and we're going to call it Star Wars. And they're like, Mr. Reagan, there's already something called Star Wars. And he's just like, whatever, fuck it, send it.
Yeah. Call it Dune 5.
Yeah.
Dune 5.
Oh, man. But the future is now.
The future is now.
The future is now. Well, what's also now is time for our break. That's what future is right now. But before we do, I want to say thank you for the follow, Saint Sinner, with the resub at the beginning there. That was real nice to see that. Appreciate that. We had a bunch of different new people in here. I think for the first time, I saw we had Jazzy Wonder, Patrona Visca. I saw one of the coolest names in chat.
Ilaria. There was Obi Taco.
Obi-Wan Takobi.
That's what it was. Takobi.
Yeah. Takobi. And that is a genius name. Wherever you are, Obi-Wan Takobi, help me because you're my only hope.
Thanks for the follow, Jazzy Wonder. I saw that one.
Sergio is here. Yeah, Jazzy Wonder gave us the follow. I appreciate that. I think we had a cheer from Who Are You? Who are you? That's cute. I like that. That's cute.
I really want to know.
That was good.
Yeah, it was great. It was too good, Jake. We'll get taken down if we're not careful.
Yeah. Don't you do more than 5 seconds of that.
That was
7
it.
seconds.
That was all we could do.
All right. Well, if we want to remind you guys, if you want all the up-to-date info on all the nerdy news you need to know, be sure to follow us here on Twitch and be sure your notifications are on. You can also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff. There should be something in the show description for that. If you want to do that, you should do that. It's a lot of fun. Yeah. You also have all of our personal accounts at Roos Bane for me. Jake, where can they find you?
At Gonzo Gone Live on
everything. Kev, you?
Totally awesome.
And that's about it. We'll see you guys back in 10. Who's that Pokemon?
Who's that Pokemon?
live in a racist country.
Yeah, there we are. And we're back. And we've got a great deep dive for you guys tonight. Let's get right into it. A fan base is a powerful thing. Everybody knows this. Your fan base is the foundation for your success when it comes to nearly everything. It determines if you make it big or go home hungry. It determines how people see and how people feel about your story or product. It is the base that you build any structure on. It's the foundations, and if those foundations are stable, especially if those foundations are at an adult age with a flexible income and free time, you'll do pretty well. Fans can be pretty crazy, though. Mob mentality is real, and as we've discussed before, there is some level of toxicity in nearly every fandom. And even if you manage to build a wholesome fan base, you could still lose them at any minute if you don't play your cards right. Tonight, we want to dive into the powers of a fan base, particularly drop culture, mass mobilization, and content rejuvenation, and the Game of Thrones effect. And while usually a driver for success, the achievement of a fan base can be weaponized pretty easily as well. All it takes is one bad announcement or inconvenient truth, and a whole flurry of toxic fans are sliding into someone's DMs and harassing the shit out of them. Kelly Marie Tran is a good example of this in the Star Wars universe.
Oh, yeah.
She wrote an entire essay on how Star Wars fans essentially chased her out of the series simply because of her race, and this was in the past 10 years. Kevin, does this level of toxicity have anything to do with a franchise like Star Wars? Do you know any other similar examples?
Yeah, I think any sort of IP or franchise that has, start craving fans, even Trekkies, right? They can get pretty crazy. I think it hurts also the fan bases that are generally good people, and meaning that it paints a bad stigma on them. Like, it's almost weird. Like, if you're like a Star Wars fan or a fan of certain thing, someone might think you're an asshole, and you're not. You just like this. You're just being lumped in with those people who are actually toxic and terrible shitheads.
Rick and Morty.
Yeah. I think fans take things too personally sometimes, especially for things that aren't real, that they have no domain over other than their support. There are rare cases where fans are right with their vitriol, i.e. Sonic the Hedgehog, but all in all, the toxicity does more harm than good. Fans can influence or even hurt the creative direction of a show, like Arrow. Cyberpunk devs, are, like, for instance, even to the point of getting death threats, like the Cyberpunk devs and countless other game developers within the industry. I think Destiny's happened a couple times. Throw a rock at a game company and someone's received death threats over something some gamer didn't like. Yep. And also too,
that happened with the recasting with Peter Parker in the new Spider-Man game.
Yes.
We talked about that the other week, where they were getting death threats just because he
didn't look like how they wanted.
Yeah,
right. He had a different
virtual
face.
character looks different.
No, and the thing was too, it's the most bizarre, shocking case or turning events. They didn't like the one white face didn't look like the other white face.
Right.
Because he was still just a white male, generic white bro. Like it did.
To be fair, the news. Peter Parker, like he looks like he has a very punchable face. Like, I just don't like how he looks. But still, it's certainly nothing I'm going to send death threats over.
It's a fucking video game face,
right?
What? This has no impact on your actual life. Like,
if it does, you need to readdress those whatever decisions you made.
Yeah,
to get to this point.
Right? Yeah. I don't know where you are in your life, but if it does, you've got other issues.
Yeah.
I think toxic gaming communities not being inclusive, are turning people, away, mainly women, away from games and franchises, right? Like, I've talked to, like, how many times, like, women my age or just in general, where they're like, yeah, I never really got into games because, a lot of guys were like assholes or, were, harassing me or things like that, like, so it's like, it does more harm than good. It's like, why can't I find a girl that likes video games? But at the same time, it's like, why do girls like video games? That's right.
It's very true.
And I do believe to an extent fans should hold showrunners or creative directors accountable to deliver a great product or experience. You are essentially paying for it, but it should be within moral reason and not being because you're a racist fuck or a sexist fuck or any sort of xenophobic piece of trash that goes wrong with your beliefs to sort of, I guess, ostracize people because they're different from you.
Right. Yeah. And toxic fan bases. Jake, what are your thoughts before I go any further?
Yeah, I mean, there are tons of different ones, and they do usually drive people away, like Kevin was saying. Like, I think, some of them that I think of has always been, because I grew up in the Deep South where sports teams, so I think about this question even more so outside of the geek realm. Well, not even geek realm, because I still think there's sports junkies are nerds. They just don't realize it. They're fucking nerds. Like, if you know how many yards Peyton Manning had in one of his MVP seasons, you're a fucking loser. Like, so it's just one of those where, like, they just don't look at it like that, right? And so, like, and there's some of the most toxic culture or toxic fan bases around, as usually with sports teams, and specifically with women, and that's a big one too. That's why I think a lot of girls don't like sports, or they'll think like it's a more masculine thing, because like sports fans for the longest time have been like, yo, bros, fucking sports, and all that, and it's very like a masculine kind of a thing. And so like, but at the end of the day, like, I think anybody should be able to enjoy sports, especially like, especially things like football, baseball, or anything that takes some sort of technique or some sort of like, basketball too has been growing in popularity amongst like all genders for the past couple of years. Like the WNBA seen more success now than it has in a long time. Right. And so I think things are getting more inviting, but I think like, there's tons of like really just toxic fan bases. Like I gave the little gentle nod to Rick and Morty. I think if you tell somebody Rick and Morty is one of your favorite shows, they automatically think you're some sort of pompous dick. And it's just like, no, like Rick does not resonate with me. I like Rick. I like Morty. I like Summer. I like Jerry. I like the whole
But if you don't like the show, it's probably because you don't get it and the humor is like above your level.
Exactly. Like, it's probably because you're just not smart. That's why you don't get it, because you're stupid. Yeah. But like, there's tons of like weird toxic cultures that people don't think about. I think like people who are like Apple elites, right? Like, everybody got an iPhone? Climb off that pedestal. Like, like
all of our phones look the fucking same. Who cares? Get over it.
Exactly. Right.
Well, I mean, that kind of moves me into my next question, because Apple's a big culprit of this. But drop culture is a big part when it comes to the power of a fan base. Apple elites and even we see with like the Xbox and the Series X and launch week this week, you've had people reselling these consoles for over $1,000 and kind of just manipulating the laws of capitalism, supply and demand to their favor, just to kind of make out like bandits. And as we were saying earlier, Kev, earlier in the show, like, these consoles are not worth $1,000, okay? And they're not, the machines that you are buying are not anything that couldn't be beaten out by a really high-end PC. You're not buying a console made of gold.
No, well, the thing is, Dodd, the reason why they're not worth $1,000 is because they price them at $500. And the only reason, like shoes or something or whatever piece that, like, for instance, like off-white Jordans, those are worth $1,000. I mean, they're not worth $1,000, but they can sell for $1,000 because they don't make those anymore.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing with drop culture, and that's one of the big differences in sneakerheads, I think, in gamers, and especially like there is some overlap. Don't get me wrong. There's a reason why they started selling Xboxes and computer parts on fucking StockX, right?
Right.
Like the latest NVIDIA chip is still on StockX for 2 times the retail price, and it's still sold. It's still selling because NVIDIA hasn't restocked them, right? Yeah. And so that's the biggest thing, and that's a huge power of like that. I think a lot of us don't realize that we have is that we have the ability to make something triple and quadruple in value just because we want it that badly, and that's the whole power of drop culture, is that it's just like, or like that forced supply and demand. Supreme launches every Thursday, and it may be something new, and you may not get the thing that you wanted, but they launch new things literally almost every Thursday. So it's like
they have a new headband.
This one, they only launched this one time. You had to buy this off StockX. It was super limited, super limited. And so but no, there is a lot of crossover within there. But I think at least with sneakers, there's limited amounts of them, right? I made the joke about Red Octobers earlier, right? But there's only so many Red Octobers, and Yeezy's not working with Nike anytime soon. He's been with Adidas for a very long time. And so there's shoes like that they may never make again. But Sony's shipping out more PlayStations.
Right.
It may not be until next year, but Sony's but Sony's shipping these bad boys out. Microsoft's shipping them out. You're gonna get one. Everybody's gonna get
this stuff is pervasive too, because you talk about drop culture, but the same thing happens in Pokemon when they have they'll have Zarude. Zarude's a legendary Pokemon that was launched and was given as an exclusive gift to people that bought a ticket to Pokemon Coco in Japan. Now, as soon as that came out, people were paying $15, $20, $30 for a Pokemon that couldn't be used in VGC. You can't use this competitively. It's only just a thing that's nice to have in your collection. And anybody that was experienced in Pokemon at all was this is going to come out in America. It's just going to be a release at GameStop or something like that. It's just going to be something they roll out later to keep people interested. Just wait. But it's new. It's flashy. It's there, and people will pay oogles and googles of money for it. That's what elevates something like people an Xbox from to twice its value.
That's what's tricky about, and Kevin, you backtracked on it a little bit, which I noticed is it's hard to say what something's worth because people will pay it. And if people will pay it, that's what it's worth. That's what I've always been taught. And so it's just one of those where as long as people will accept scalpers are going to be a thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's
exactly. Well, but a great fan base can bring to life new life to an old series. 50 Shades of Grey, for example, started out as Twilight fan fiction. That's a true story. Twitch creates content from content creators creating content from existing content. So, again, fan bases can end up, regurgitating and creating new content that ends up creating a life of its own. Can you think of any examples, Jake, in particular, of how fan bases can expand on existing fandoms?
Oh, yeah. I think there's plenty of awesome examples where, we've seen the power of a fan base bring back a show, make a show into a movie. I'll get into those a little bit later because I have a lot of really good examples there. But I think, as far as being a medium piggybacking off of another medium, Twitch is a great example, but YouTube's great as well. But look at what streaming alone has done for games like Among Us. This is a game that came out, over a year ago, almost 2 years ago, I think, right? 2017. And so, which would be 3. Holy shit, the time. Anyway. And so this game came out years ago, and then streaming brought it into a whole new level. People saw it. People were like, oh, I love that. Let's play it. And so then it, now it's, one of the most watched and talked about games of the year. And so that's definitely somewhere where if it would have never wound up on Twitch, and Twitch isn't a thing, Among Us is dead. You know what I mean? It never becomes the thing that it did. For years, books essentially were a medium that, facilitated what movies were going to come out. The best-selling books of that year usually always got made into a movie down the road. And I know that that's such an easy one to kind of piggyback off of each other. But that's where the power of the New York top selling list or whatever for novels ends up being a direct lead into what movies we see coming out into the next couple of years, right? Yeah. Social media even. I think TikTok has opened up more cultures and more fan bases and different things to people who would have never seen it, similar to what Reddit's done for a lot of people as well, and even Facebook to some extent. I mean, we can all hate, Facebook, but at the same time, it's definitely open doors to either people being in huge echo chambers or, help them branch out and meet people and backgrounds and fandoms that they never would have seen. And then streaming services, I just always have to go back to not just Twitch and things like that, but Netflix. I think a lot of things can get a second wind whenever it comes onto a new streaming service. Look at Avatar. I think Avatar, The Last Airbender was just it's a great example of a show that has been done, right?
Yeah.
And the fans of it were already fans of it, and they had been screaming.
Look at Legend of Korra. Nobody watched Legend of Korra.
Legend of Korra is a good example.
Honestly, Legend of Korra is better than Avatar now.
Yeah.
In my opinion, and I would have never ever seen any of it if I hadn't given that second wind on Netflix.
Exactly. And so a lot of things will see their second wind on these, like these new streaming services. And Netflix, it's really bizarre. I see an old show or movie that I've seen years ago in the Netflix top 10 every week. And I'll be like, what the fuck is that doing in the top 10? And then I'll realize, it just came to Netflix. Yeah. And so it's a whole new audience just got opened up to it.
Looking at Gen Z and Friends.
I know, right?
Yeah.
The fucking kids just saw Friends, and now they're
I know. I was at a store the other day or something. I was getting like some shit for my Mac, but we were like stopping at a clothing store, and it was just like a bunch of Friends memorabilia, and I'm like, oh, this is weird. Like, like I remember Friends coming back was like kind of nostalgic for me. I would like watch it on TV, but I was never like that like attached to it again. I was like, that, to me, my opinion, I'm gonna get dragged for this. It doesn't hold up, but. I think I just to piggyback off of what you're saying, Jake. I think streaming platforms are sort of the biggest places where games get elevated to high acclaim or a new level. Like you said, Among Us. No one was playing Among Us. This game has been out for like 2 or 3. I don't even know. I think Dodd said 8. I'm saying 2 or 3. No one knows. It's not a new game. That's what we know. But it got a big Twitch streamer picked it up, played it. It had hella fun, and then it just kind of snowballed from there. And then AOC picks it up, so it happens. You've seen it happen with Fortnite. Like Fortnite was out for years, turned into a completely different game, and then Ninja gets on there with Drake and Travis Scott, and then blows the fuck up.
Now it's fucking Fortnite.
And ironically, Fortnite has died away because of the sort of lack of fan base, and fans sort of going on to other things, not being able to keep up. It even happens with shows getting multiple seasons, longer than what the showrunner was expecting to even do, not necessarily from a studio standpoint, but even from a creative one, like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was supposed to end 2 seasons ago. It got an additional 2 ones because they wanted to see, fans wanted to see more of it. New Girl was another show. That was supposed to, a show that was supposed to end like 2, Lost. Tons of shows.
Big one. J.J. Abrams straight up was like, yo, we only had enough ideas for 3 seasons, and they told us we needed 7.
Yeah. Even going back to the 90s, X-Files. X-Files was supposed to end like in season 5. They had a whole 2 seasons that didn't have Mulder and Scully.
That show.
Terrible, by the way. But my point is that I think if fans sort of drive these things, one, because they're going to pay for it, and 2, if you have an audience to watch, showrunners or studios, developers, they're going to put stuff out for you. Look at games that are kept alive just from like constant rolling of content, Ubisoft titles all the way to, you name it.
Well, I mean, you talk about getting a new life on Netflix. I mean, not just Avatar, but think about The Witcher.
Yes.
Getting completely, new audience there, and stuff like that. I don't know. I think that
it drove me to go from watching the show to playing the game, and I had never played the game. But I am an RPG fan, and I'd always heard The Witcher was great. I just never put in the time, right? But the show was so good, and I was like, this universe is pretty dope. I want to learn more about it. I'm going to play the game. So I started with The Witcher 3, and holy fuck, probably one of the greatest games I ever played. I loved it. So it's just interesting how streaming can really bring a new fan base to something that's been around,
Right. For sure. Well, one thing is for sure, a positive and wholesome fan base will get you far. Recently, I have discovered a few shitposting groups online from various fandoms. And let me tell you one thing, Avatar fans are so much better than Marvel fans. Marvel fans are fucking toxic as hell. Oh my God. Shout out to Marvel shitposting. You guys are all toxic as fuck. Mostly because Marvel is constantly competing with DC. And everybody in there is just constantly bashing all of DC people. There's a plethora of slurs that are used for all kinds of derogatory things, but Avatar doesn't have any competitors like that. So Avatar fandom's like, yo, do you think I look like more like Zuko or Aang? You know, like everybody in there is just really sweet and nice and fun. And when someone does act like shitty, they're like, you know, like, I don't know. It's the wholesome people attack the mean people and kind of.
Someone didn't have their tea.
Right. Exactly, right? You know, they're, you know, they attack with the ferocity of the Fire Nation towards toxic people in their fandom. But the Marvel fans, if you ask them, you know, like, hey, you know, why are you guys always so toxic? They're like, have you seen DC? They, you know, piss on Stan Lee's grave. And it's like, that's not an excuse.
No.
Do you get what else can a fan base do for you, and how does that compare to ones that sour their reputation, Kev?
Yeah, for sure. I think what a fan base can do for you is bring in more fans. Like I said, if they're wholesoming and welcome and inclusive, more people are going to want that, especially if it's something good or interesting. You know, like I mentioned before, a reason, like the reason a lot of women weren't into video games early on, especially like in the 2000s or 90s or whatever, because there was a lot of misogynistic, toxic, you know, culture in that. And you know, of course, no one wants to be a part of it. Even if you love video games, you know, you almost get scared away from it. Yeah. I had to look far and wide and think of examples where I've had positive experiences with wholesome fan bases, because they can be pretty bitter and rough. But it's rare. For me, my experience, I try to lean on like games I played. I'll just go ahead and I've had, ironically enough, I've had positive game experiences on Fortnite, where, like, you know, if you kill anybody in any other game, your mother's getting insulted or you're getting called a racial slur. I'm looking at you, Call of Duty. But I remember I'd killed somebody in Fortnite and he like sent me a LOL or something and said GG. There was another time it happened, and apparently I was on the island with some kid or some person before, and they were like, hey, I just saw you, GG, and you know, stuff like that. Or it'll be random games like Need for Speed. Some guy just seen us saying nice car, can I join your squad or whatever? You know, it's like it's random shit like that. But I think like the really diehard fans that or fan bases that do exist, I haven't really found too many wholesome ones, to be honest.
That's fair. Yeah. Jake, what about you?
Well, I mean, they can save a show. Yeah. That's one of the biggest things that I think a fan base can do, is they can save things that everybody loves, right? Like Brooklyn Nine-Nine went from being canned to picked up on a whole new network in 24 hours, mostly due to a huge fan outcry. Arrested Development fans sent bananas to the showrunners until they finally got a season 3. Now that's not toxic, but that's like such a great way to represent, like, you know, there's money in the banana stand, damn it.
Yeah.
And so, like, Veronica Mars fans literally raised the money for their own movie. They ran a Kickstarter campaign and Christian Bale led it, and the fans funded their own Veronica Mars movie. And so there's plenty of ways that I think, you know, the power of a fan base can rally around a project because they love the story, they love the creators, they love whatever it may be, and continue it going. You know, like I look at Bill and Ted was another one that was mainly due to Keanu's, you know, coming back and the fans saying, yo, let's get another Bill and Ted in the books, right? Adult Swim fans almost single-handedly brought back shows like Futurama and Family Guy. Family Guy died and then went over to, you know, Cartoon Network or, you know, Adult Swim. And it was the viewers there and the constant, like, you know, the outcry afterwards, like, how the fuck did this show get canceled when Fox is still playing God knows what on Sunday? Yeah. And so, like, you know, because people, and let me preface that with Family Guy used to be a really good show. And Futurama is always going to be one of the best, in my opinion. Oh, yeah. And it went from dead to back alive to dead to back alive, all because of the fans. The fans always kept that one going. Community found a new home because of the fans' outcry after it was canceled. Now, the season on Yahoo was garbage, in my opinion, but at least it brought back Dan Harmon, and they tried to finish it off nice, right?
Yeah.
But then there's things like Rick and Morty that I believe could have lost fans due to the toxicity of its fans. Right. Like, I think like, you know, like, I think enough people, like, it's one of those things where, like, I think there's people who should like the show and would, if not for the fact that they feel like there's some sort of like air about saying that they're fans of Rick and Morty, right? And I think a lot of gaming communities do the same thing, where everyone's like, get good, LOL. And it's like, dude, no, like sometimes like take time, talk to people, tell them like, oh, did you try this? You know, you need to make sure you save before that boss. Like, you know, like there's so much, you know, more to being a fan than just telling somebody, LOL, get wrecked, motherfucker. You know, I just, so like, I don't get like why people like, oh, I'm a Halo fan. And it's like, yeah, but like, do you just play it? You know, have you ever taught anybody how to play Halo? Have you ever like sat down with someone and showed them like, you know, the differences in the weaponry, or like, you know, have you ever brought anybody up? That's how I look at being a wholesome fan. Myself personally, is that you elevate anyone into the fan base. Did you bring anyone else in? It's almost like converting them like Christians. Were you evangelical? Like, did you take that approach, or did you just tell them they were hot in hell? You know what I mean? Like, what did you tell them?
And also with you.
True. Yeah. No, I think you're right, Jake. I think I looked at it from a more narrow scope. I think, like, for instance, various fan base, like Stranger Things fans are pretty cool. Like, I have like, I'm subscribed to various number of like fan bases on Reddit, even surprisingly Red Dead fans. I know there's been grievers and stuff, but they just do that just to be trolls. But all in all, like the fans there are pretty positive. I think sometimes you get sort of out, or the more toxic ones are a little bit louder, but for sure, I think there is certainly a lot of good positive fan bases out there. If you look at it from top to bottom.
Overall, because like Madden, you go play Madden online and you just do a quick game with somebody, you're probably going to get somebody that's going to send you a message calling you some type of racial slur, or you know, talking about fucking your mother, right? But the Madden Ultimate Team subreddit, which is a community of thousands of people, they're all super fucking helpful. People trade cards, give away cards. They're super nice to each other. There's tons of casual games where people will be like, does anybody want to just try out, you know, different schemes with each other? I've had people literally just, or I used to see people literally just play each other so that they could unlock achievements. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so it's one of those where like, it's, I think all communities can have some good fans. You just got to look for them sometimes, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. Well, it's not only your fans that can ruin your reputation, though. You can, too. You as in, like, the people that are running the property. In fact, turning on your fans is the best way that you could do that. Whether it's through a disappointing end or a terrible story direction, fan bases can vanish overnight. Jake, do you have any good examples of this?
You said it earlier, man. Game of Thrones. That's the first one that comes to mind. Like, I think we've janked on Game of Thrones a few times during this.
Yeah, I was doing a little foreplay, but this is the where it really comes down to it.
Well, no, it's just it's a great example of something that had probably the most hype in the fucking universe, and then just completely shit the bed. Like in one season, this went from being everyone's essentially Star Wars, you know, like kind of like esque fan base where like, you know, this thing could live on forever, to now I think HBO's even thinking like, are we going to keep doing Game of Thrones shows? Like, I know we had some prequels and shit lined up, but I don't know, man. That last season was fucking garbage. And so I think of Game of Thrones. I think of Scrubs. Scrubs is another one that comes to mind. Scrubs is such a good show. And then the last couple seasons just like suck so bad that like it's just everybody kind of like forgets that it was a good show. Lost is another one that's like phenomenal. Lost has the pilot episode is possibly one of the greatest pilot episodes. Honestly, I think if I was running a film class and I was sitting down and I was going to teach somebody how to draw people in and make a pilot episode of a show, I would show them Lost. I think any director, anybody who's trying to think of how to build suspense, but also like lay out some character growth in just one episode and kind of like bring people in, fucking watch the first episode of Lost. And so there's so many shows that have come out throughout the years that either the creators ran out of steam or the creators left. That's a big thing that happens a lot, where the showrunners will just call, you know, they'll fucking dip out. And so there's so many things where like, you know, the show ends up just taking a total different direction that the fans hate. And, you know, it causes a purge essentially in their fandom, which can lead to them being a huge nothing burger. I think of games like Destiny. Destiny was supposed to be the next big thing. No one fucking Destiny 2. Like I think some people bought it, but like I didn't, and I bought Destiny 1 and was a big fan. But
Destiny has its own hardcore fan base.
It has its own,
but it's not its Halo. It's not Halo like it was supposed to be.
It was supposed to be Halo.
No. Yeah.
Right. And so most of the Alien games, think about that for a minute. Like almost every Alien game, except for like the scary one that we talked about last week, and a few other ones, have been so fucking awful that like the Alien franchise hasn't been able to get a game off. And the Mass Effect, we talked about that earlier, and Fallout even, both had such stinker games in their lineups eventually that it caused fans to rethink their fandom. Fallout 76 made people go, what the fuck is this? Like, I did not sign up for this, you know? And so, it turned me off of Fallout, and I literally have a Fallout build for a PC that I'm on right now. Like, like Fallout themed. I'm like a Fallout fanboy, and 76 got like maybe a few hours out of me, and I was just like, this is not what we like, you know? And of course, they've made updates since then. So you think the power of a fan base is that we do say a lot with our dollars. And so Fallout 76 falling on its face, Bethesda had to hit the drawing board. They're even coming out with a new Still of Dawn update that's coming out soon that's supposed to bring it back to, like, people are saying it's getting back to Fallout 4, Fallout 70, you know, like New Vegas feel. And so they're adding NPCs and stuff. So, like, that's the power of a fan base. You know what I mean? Like, you can make a video game, a AAA video game at that, go from like, oh, you know, like, here it is, and then a year later it actually become the game that you really wanted.
Yeah. Kev, what do you think? You know, when is there a way that you can disappoint your fans by just taking a wrong direction?
Yeah, I think I mentioned it earlier, but Fortnite's certainly done that. They've just they did this weird thing where they were like, okay, we're going to appeal to people who, like, i.e. younger audience, because we're going to roll content out every single day. But at the same time, someone like me who has a job, kind of like two jobs, honestly, who can't sit here and keep up with these constant meta changes and content updates, you know, I get sort of drawn away from, like, I can't keep up with this. I can't, like, it was a game that, unless you were a professional, like, Fortnite player or close to it, you could not play this game. It just wasn't fun anymore. We mentioned the Avengers game, that 96% of its users or players, fan base. And like Jake mentioned earlier, Mass Effect was another one. The reason I didn't play Anthem was because I was like, unless this game is stellar and has great reviews, I'm not buying it because I'm boycotting it. They ruined something that was near and dear to my heart to make this game, so it better be amazing. And it wasn't. And like we talked about Destiny earlier, Destiny's great. It's a good game. But compared to what it was, especially with what Bungie has done, I think it's kind of underachieved. Now, I haven't played some of the recent updates, and mostly because, like we talked about, what they do is they bring out, like, Destiny 1. The game came out, it was incomplete, it was lackluster, and then the second year rolls around, boom, content comes out, and it's a great game. And then they did the same thing with Destiny 2, but by that time, I got on Destiny 2, and I was so overwhelmed, I didn't even want to touch it. I was like, why couldn't you keep this momentum going initially? Like, I have other interests. I don't want to do this now. You know, it's over. It's like someone, like your ex trying to win you back or something. Like, look, I've improved myself. You know, it's like, it's too late.
Yeah. It'll happen. They can take those directions and just completely tank a fandom.
You hate to see it.
You hate to see it. Well, that'll about do it for our deep dive. But we've got a great top Zen for you guys as well. It's been a long week. It's been full of a very unique drama. If you're a washed-up Mandalorian actress on Mayan Space or Only Clans, you might have mentioned something about someone stealing someone's success from somebody else. So obviously she must be talking about this week's Top Zen. Top 10 show stealers in movies and TV. Yes, from beta to alpha, these characters climb from the fringe of popularity to becoming household names. The story wasn't about them until it was about them. And we're all better off for it. So with that said, let's get right into number 10 with our countdown. Tommy Oliver, a.k.a. the Green Ranger / White Ranger from the Power Rangers. Yes, Power Ranger legend Tommy was supposed to only appear in the first season as a small character, but fans loved him so much that he eventually became a main star, and he kept coming back for more versions of the show. He hasn't stopped showing up, actually. He still shows up at conventions, probably during Corona, too. I mean, damn it, I've seen Tommy at every fucking convention. The guy has more signature boosts than Stan Lee did when he was alive.
Fucking loves being Tommy, bro. Like
he's still just still milking that for absolutely all of its worth. Originally the Green Ranger, he later appeared as the super cool White Ranger, and he went on to appear in also Alien Rangers, Zeo, Turbo, Dino, Thunder, all the different Power Rangers. At this point, he was a revered legendary Power Ranger veteran by the latest recruits. He's also in Wild Force, SPD, Super Mega Force. We're not making these names up, by the way. These are all real names.
Power Rangers shows.
They're all real names. And actor Jason David Frank, I remember. Yes, his name was a Jason. He's got a very Jason personality. You've seen him before too, like really short hair, probably wears Affliction t-shirts, kind of thing. Hasn't surprised. He's reprised the role every single time Tommy has come up to bat. Like
he does it for free now.
No. Yeah, he just loves this character, and we'll never give him up.
He is, yeah. Like, and this sucks because I remember as a kid, I like the Red Ranger. Jason was my favorite, and I just remember being so petty or like so bitter and hating on Tommy because he took the spotlight from Jason. But after a while, I had to give him his respect. He beat everybody, all the Rangers with a flute.
Yeah,
stole their Megazord.
Green was my favorite color. It still is, right? And so it's just one of those where, like, as a kid, I went with like green's my favorite, and so but then like as I grew up with the show, watching it, he just stayed a constant badass throughout the entire show, and eventually became the White Ranger, which was fucking awesome. You know, and like, so it's just one of those where, like,
I think he was like red, black. He was like almost
Tommy's
all the colors.
I think. Like he's been all of them, I think. Like,
all the different colors. He's the Rainbow Ranger.
And it's crazy. He was only supposed to be in the first season. So fun fact, never knew that.
True story. Geeklife gets its main Geeklife green from the Green Ranger.
There you go.
No, that's just complete bullshit. I just made that up, but I thought it was fun.
You heard it here first.
You heard it here first. It's certainly not as fun as number 9 on our countdown, The Fonz from Happy Days. Tell us why The Fonz makes this countdown, Kev.
Hey, Fonzie proves what would have happened if you had too much of a good thing, like literally jumping the shark. But long before that, Henry Winkler, RIP, was cast at the last minute as a leather jacket wearing hero, as original star Mickey Dolenz from the Monkees was too tall. Starting life as a French character, it didn't take long for him to become the main focus of the entire series. It got to the point that at one stage, ABC wanted to change the title to Fonzie's Happy Days. We've all done like the iconic A, right? Like I only associate Happy Days with the Fonz. I don't know any other characters.
Yeah.
Henry Winkler's still alive. I had to Google that. You said RIP, and I was like, Winkler died?
Oh, shit. Sorry, Henry Winkler. I didn't mean to.
He's just old.
I didn't mean to throw you up there. Yeah, he's old. Sorry.
I always think of Fonz. Someone said he's on Barry. He's the acting coach on Barry. He does a phenomenal job on Barry too. But always, dude, the coach from The Waterboy.
Yes.
Like, dude, I always like that's one of his iconic roles, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, just crushed it. Love the Fonz too, though. I never knew the Fonz was supposed to just be a side character too. That's another one that you kind of like, holy shit, like definitely stole the show. The Fonz is the most memorable character from Happy Days.
Absolutely. But while those characters steal the show, this next character will probably fist fight you for the show drunkenly at a baseball game. Randy Marsh comes in at number 8 on our countdown from South Park. Tell us why Randy Marsh is number 8 on our top 10 show stealers.
Cafeteria Frisch. In the early days of South Park, Randy was merely a background character who didn't say much and wasn't even established as Stan's dad early on. However, as the creators Trey Parker and Matt Stone got older and started to identify more with the adults of South Park than the kids, Randy slowly started to elevate into one of the main characters of the show. Now he's essentially the most prominent adult in the show and one of the funniest by far, in my opinion, and probably everyone else's. Am I right? From cock magic to secretly being Lord to fighting rival dads shirtless, he's everywhere. And to think he's technically still a geologist. The family's moved to Tennessee.
Not anymore.
Farms. Yeah, I know. Now he's not.
Yeah.
I mean, but he technically is an college-educated geologist. Like this guy,
He is, yeah.
Forget about that. Because
he's got a geology degree somewhere.
The family's move to Tegrity Farms has made it even more has made Randy an even bigger focal point. The show's last pandemic special was essentially just a full Randy special. In more ways than one. The same also applies to Sweet Little Butters, who was once a mute minor character who eventually became one of the most important and probably beloved characters on the show. I know as I've gotten older, I too have really gravitated towards Randy as a character, and like it's just everything that he does is hilarious to me. They can't miss. Dodd, I thought this was America. What do you think?
Randy's a classic, man. I mean, the pandemic special, it's funny because the whole story is about, something to get us through these hard times, and that's kind of exactly what the pandemic special ended up being. So he's definitely a show stealer for sure. This whole last season, I think Randy is the A plot for most of it. He's the story that's going on with the kids is the B plot.
I'm just gonna get a little cancer, Sharon. Just a little cancer.
Just a little cancer. Just a little cancer. He's very quotable, and definitely one of the underrated characters on the show, and a show full of show stealers, for sure. But while Randy is tacky, he's not quite as tacky, like, infomercial tacky as number 7 in our countdown, Saul Goodman from Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. That's right. Saul Goodman may sound like a made-up name from an infomercial, and that's because it's intended to. Bob Odenkirk brings to life this shitty lawyer in the best way possible. He's relatable. He's funny. He's sleazy. And he's definitely a show stealer in a show full of show stealers as well. Jesse Pinkman came close in the Breaking Bad franchise, but you don't see him making his own series now, do you? Better Call Saul is set to produce its 6th and final season as soon as the pandemic begins to slow down, which would officially make it 1 season longer than Breaking Bad. So It's undeniably that Better Call Saul is a pretty impressive show stealer. And honestly, just a little side note here, Bob Odenkirk's a great guy. I actually met him one time down here in Austin. It was a South by Southwest back when we used to have those. And it was at a bar. There was a bunch of celebrities that night. Like if you go like the week before South by Southwest, that's the best time to actually see celebrities. I went to watch Elijah Wood DJ that night, and that's when I met Bob Odenkirk, and I ran into the guy from Reno 911, the New Boots Goofin', that guy. Yeah, I took a picture with him that whole night. That's just one night. But it was a lot of fun, and he's a really great guy. I bought him a shot, and he took it with me, and he was just like, he's just as awkward and like average, ordinary human, like he was just a dude. If I didn't know that it was Bob Odenkirk, then no one would have. He was not. He was certainly not a douche.
They're people too.
Right. Well, I mean, like the thing is that usually people get starstruck and then like they're a douchebag. They're someone.
No.
Bob Odenkirk was not.
And this dude's had a highly successful career. He probably gets approached by fans all the time, like one of those things. But yeah, no, he definitely his goodness seems to come through in characters even. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if that's like, obviously there's celebrities that we thought were good that ended up being pieces of shit. But like that guy, he's always seemed to be a pretty good guy in my opinion.
Yeah. He is. But that's it for number 7 on our countdown. Number 6 on our countdown has been breaking more than just Breaking Bad records. They've been breaking Twitch stream records recently. Miles Morales comes in at number 6 on our countdown. To tell us why Miles Morales is so highly ranked on our top 10 show stealers.
The original concept of a Black Spider-Man was first discussed a few months before the November 2008 election of Barack Obama as president of the U.S. Marvel Comics then editor-in-chief Axel Alonso described the catalyst when we were planning Ultimatum, when we realized we were standing at the brink of America electing its first African-American president, and we acknowledged that maybe it's time to take a good look at one of our icons. They ended up scrapping it and I think it was in 2011 because they hadn't developed the story, but ultimately came back to sort of recreate. Sorry, they ended up scrapping it towards 2009. They ended up sort of redeveloping it in 2011 with the storyline of Death of Spider-Man, and the character Miles Morales was created. Although Morales is the first Black Spider-Man, he marks the second time a Latino character has taken the Spider identity. Miguel O'Hara, who is half Mexican descent and was the character in the 1990 series Spider-Man 2099. I think people really love this character. One, he resonates with the younger audience. He's classic underdog story. He's more inclusive because he's Black. You know, like you don't have too many sort of heroes like this other than, you know, someone that wears the hood or the mask of like a recognizable historic icon like Spider-Man. Yeah. Also, like, he's snarty and witty like Peter Parker, but he has his own sort of like swagger to it. His shoe game and Spidey drip is impeccable. Are you kidding me? Like the origin story with the hoodie over the costume, like no one else. It's like a superhero like you haven't done before. He keeps his own personality while still being Spider-Man. I like that. And I think also, too, is he has other unique abilities that Spider-Man doesn't, like the ability to sort of turn invisible and do like what they call Venom Blast, which is basically this lightning electric charged ability that he shoots from his hands. Yeah. So, like Miles Morales, I think, and again, he sort of resonates with the 21st century generation. Peter Parker is always going to be great, but I think this Miles Morales speaks more towards sort of the way things are going just in culture in general.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm even dude, I'm a chubby white guy who's like almost 30, and Miles Morales is still probably the Spider-Man that I feel like I can relate to more. Right. And I know that sounds, that may be bizarre, but it's like the old school Peter Parker, he was only a nerd because he was like smart and he can invent things. Like, it was like, oh, look at this fucking nerd over here that can write, like do stuff for all that, where Miles was more like, he was the nerd in like the 21st century way that like, he plays video games, a little awkward, he's kind of like, just the awkward teen in a way. And so like, cause I was never the type that was like, I always felt kind of like an outcast, but not in the fact that I can go do a bunch of fucking Goodwill Hunting style, like, mathematician bullshit. Right. Right. Yeah. And so like, I never, like for some reason, Peter Parker was just a nerd cause he was smart. Like, and so anyway, but like, the Miles Morales, like kind of being like the loser, if you will, right? Like was something that was way more.
I don't even know if it was that. I feel like Miles Morales to me, it's like Spider-Man is different than Iron Man because Spider-Man is like your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man versus Iron Man, who's like the national hero who saves the world. In the same way, like, I feel like Miles Morales is such a great character and blends with in making such a great Spider-Man because Miles Morales is your friendly neighborhood kid first. Right. Yeah. And versus like Peter Parker, who tries to be that. And I think a lot of what you were saying, Jake, but like is a little bit unrelatable because he is that super genius kind of thing. And it's like, I wasn't like that. But, I could maybe relate to, the kid listening to music on the train with his hoodie on. Like I could, that feels a much more relatable than, maybe the dude doing, as you said, on their Goodwill Hunting math on the chalkboard.
Which I think that's why Tom Holland's Spider-Man resonates with me too. They did a good job of that one, him being kind of a more modern loser. And so like, but the Miles and Tom Holland have been my favorite two Spider-Mans to date. Sorry, Gyllenhaal or whatever the fuck, whoever did that back in the day.
It's Tobey Maguire.
Maguire, yeah, I always get
Toby, yeah.
But sure, Jake Gyllenhaal will take credit for it too.
I get my generic white actors mixed up all the time.
Yeah, Gyllenhaal's the one that has the sister. You got to just remember that part.
And Gyllenhaal's Mysterio too, right?
That's right. They're throwing
which
all
he did
kinds
a really
of
good job on. Anyway,
he did. But not as good job as number 5 on our countdown, which is Carol fucking Baskin. Tell us why Carol Baskin makes number 5 on our countdown, Jake.
So the show might have been called Tiger King, but the Tiger Queen, Carol Baskin, stole the show. You know the story. Carol Baskin killed her husband, whacked him. You can't convince us that it didn't happen. She fed him to tigers. They snacking. What's happening? Carol Baskin. But while most of the documentary centered around Joe Exotic, this quarantine banger left everyone talking about Carol and if she really fed her husband to tigers. We'll never know, as his disappearance is still considered a cold case until late. And Carol is said to be getting her own movie starring SNL's Kate McKinnon. Which, you know, whenever you got that kind of star power behind your character, you know you kind of won. Right? Like it's one of those where like we all are kind of obsessed with Joe Exotic and his craziness or whatever, but at the same time, like no one can forget Carol Baskin. We all kind of forgot that dude that's obviously like grooming young girls and had this weird kind of like cult thing going for him, like with the ponytail. But no one remembers that guy's name. We just remember the weird ponytail guy.
Yeah, but he was there. He had a lot of elements too. He had a lot of great storytelling elements.
Yeah. But it's Carol Baskin. She stole the show. We all love Carol Carol fucking Baskin, man. And it's funny that Kate McKinnon is going to be starring her in a movie, or at least that's what the rumors are saying, because it's just Carol went from being the side character in this Joe Exotic documentary to now she's the main character in her own story. She was even in Dancing with the Stars recently. Yeah. She's living her best life. But the real question is, Dodd, do you think she did it?
I mean, is there a country song written about it? Can it be wrong at that point? Do I need to refer you to the case of Goodbye Earl?
That is true.
They're throwing a Dixie Chicks reference for you guys there. There you go. All right, moving right along so I can get some traction between me and that Dixie Chicks reference. Number 4 in our countdown is Steve Urkel from Family Matters. Never before has a character literally stolen the show off the actual main cast like Urkel. Believe it or not, guys, Family Matters is not about Urkel. I
know.
Jill White's.
I thought it was the Urkel show.
No, yeah. Jill White's geeky kid was meant to be a one-off character, but he quickly not only became the most show's popular star, but eventually its main protagonist.
Did I do that?
Despite the fact that he wasn't even in the Winslow family. The show was all about Urkel after fans couldn't get enough of his thick eyeglasses, suspenders, cardigan sweaters, and high-pitched voice. Did I do that? Has become absolutely iconic, and Urkel has become the face of nerddom in and of itself. Like, if I see people doing a nerd costume for Halloween, it's pretty much an Urkel parody. Like, that's what it is usually, Is there anyone that rivals Urkel's status as the embodiment of the nerd, Kev?
Oh, absolutely not. Like, that is the sort of iconoclast of nerds, if you will. It's Steve Urkel. I think I think there was a skit Key and Peele did that sort of best summarized what happened here, where Steve Urkel was meeting with the executive of Family Matters and basically just saying it's the Steve Urkel show now. It was taking over. Yeah. Because that's what happened. Like, a lot of people forget about Carl and his son and the other son and his wife. Seeing I even know Stefan, who was Steve Urkel's
hell yeah, Stefan was
alter ego.
Well, he was just Jaleel. He was just Jaleel White.
Jaleel White, that's true. Yeah, he was just Jaleel White.
It just turned out that Jaleel was really good at playing Steve.
Yeah. But no, it was I remember watching this growing up, and it was Steve Urkel's show. Like, it's weird how that happened. He just took. I don't think out of everyone on this, and we're gonna get to him, but I would argue he'd be put in number 1 because I cannot name really any characters outside of Steve Urkel and Carl. from
We've got a
Matters.
few.
He did.
We've got a
completely
few.
steer it. He completely stole that show. So
Yeah.
like literally stole that show right out from under the Winslows. It was supposed to be their show, and then it became the Steve Urkel show.
Yeah. It wasn't even a Winslow.
I know. He was the neighbor. Kid was the neighbor. It would have been like if Seinfeld would have said, like, okay, now it's the Kramer show. You know, Kramer was a big part of Seinfeld, don't get me wrong, but it was still Jerry's show. And so, like, and it stayed Jerry's show throughout it. But, like, Kramer, you know, like, had that same kind of, like, he'd burst through the door and, oh, the fuck, Jerry? You know, like, and so, like, you know, he had that same effect because Family Matters, I'm remembering episodes in my head right now. Urkel would always burst into the kitchen door or something, and everybody would lose their fucking minds, right? Similar to, like, how Kramer entered. And, like, but yet Kramer didn't get his own spinoff. I mean, that could have been some of the off the air stuff that Kramer did to not get his own show, but Kramer didn't get his own, like, you know, it didn't become the Kramer show essentially. Whereas, you know, with this show, it definitely became Urkel's show.
And literally, like, I don't mean like he just stole the show. Like everyone got excited when they saw him. They wrote plots around him. Like they when he came, like it wasn't just he made appearances and everyone like tuned in. No. They stopped focusing on the Winslows and it just became the Steve Urkel story.
Yeah. That's very true. He pretty much dictated the direction of that show completely once he came in there. But number 3 on our countdown is someone who did a lot of cleaning up on Scrubs. The janitor makes number 3 on our countdown from Scrubs. Tell us why the janitor is so highly ranked on this countdown.
Yeah. Well, Dodd, Neil Flynn's grumpy custodian may have appeared in every episode of the first season, but he wasn't meant to be such a prominent character at the beginning. Creator Bill Lawrence, he said, that had Scrubs been axed really early on, the character would have been revealed to be JD's mind all along. Hence why he's the only one who interacts with him at the start. But everyone on set and at home loved the janitor so much, he soon became a main cast member and one of the most hilarious stars of the show. He finally revealed his real name, Glenn Matthews, in the finale. Why did it take so long? Nobody asked. Yeah, I didn't watch too much of Scrubs. I watched the first season. I know. I do remember.
It's a classic, man.
I know. I do remember the janitor being sort of like the sort of, you know, bright spot for me in that show. I mean, there were a lot, but that was the one. Like when I think of that show as someone who's not really watched it that much, other than JD, the janitor is someone that I just automatically pops in my head.
Yeah,
That's hilarious.
love shows. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it's hilarious that, like, if it would have been axed, that the janitor would have just been a, you know, figment of JD's imagination the entire time. They had one of the best chemistry, you know, in the show was between obviously JD and Turk. You know, like the guy love there was phenomenal, but then also JD and the janitor, that was their antics were a part of the show's like long running kind of like callbacks, you know, jokes in a way, and so. It's just one of those where the janitor definitely, like, I'm glad he became a staple of the show. There was a lot of really great jokes there, and I can't believe he was supposed to just be a figment.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and that would have been played so well into the whole, like, kind of plot line of Scrubs. I love shows like that kind of, like, border on the line of, like, you know, they're not representing a complete view of sanity. You know, like Wilfred did that too. Wilfred was like the main character was mentally unstable, and like same thing with JD too. It's not that he's necessarily mentally unstable, but you go through all of the emotions with him and through his own thoughts. And I love shows that are like that. I love shows that play on that line. And the janitor tap danced on that line all the time. I think that he was a great way to move the plot forward, and it became more than just a throwaway device to where he was like that scene where he reveals his name at the end is like a really, really big deal.
It is.
No one had ever known his name. And,
you never know his name.
Yeah. And
but JD never asked for it either. That's what's always funny.
Right.
That's the joke there.
So it's an interesting one. But it's not quite the scruffy-looking nerf herder that number 2 in our countdown is, who was an absolute show stealer, probably, arguably the best show stealer from Star Wars, Han Solo. Tell us why Han Solo makes the countdown, Jake.
Yeah, in the original script, Han Solo is actually killed off as he and Princess Leia battle with the Empire. This was largely written to the script because Harrison Ford, who, if you didn't know, plays Han Solo, did not really care for the character. Initially, he wanted his character to be killed off so badly that he had even told producers he would only return to the third movie for Solo to die. Therefore, they ended up writing the script in this manner. With that being said, things did not end up that way. Somehow the script changed. Solo survived, and Luke, despite all his internal conflicts, continued to fight for the rebellion. This is a story that diehard Star Wars fans might already be familiar with. However, there is one thing that they may not know, which, as it's not widely circulated. The reason that Han Solo survived wasn't necessarily because George Lucas or Harrison Ford had a last-minute change of heart. The script was changed because Lucas was concerned that fewer toys would be sold if Han Solo was killed, and there were questions about Luke's allegiance to the rebellion. He thought toy sales would plummet, especially, without Ford's star power being, attached to it in the later episodes of the show, or the episodes of the series, as he didn't think that it would be interesting to purchase Han Solo action figures if the character died in the movie, which is kind of true. Not many people buy action figures of dead characters. One thing is for certain, this would have changed the entire trilogy and the movies afterwards. And not necessarily for the better. I think a lot of people really do like Han Solo. and I mean, I don't think that's a brave assessment.
I mean, he was just killed off one movie later.
Exactly.
Spoiler alert for those who haven't seen Force Awakening yet.
One movie later, but what, like 30, 40 years?
Yeah, sure.
But obviously every person has their own opinion. But many Star Wars fans are internally grateful that the script for Return of the Jedi was changed, regardless of the reason why it necessarily happened. Dodd, do you think the Star Wars universe would look a whole lot different without the scrappy smuggler in the mix?
I think it would look a lot different. I think that you wouldn't have hooked in the audience that you would have from the get-go. I mean, for sci-fi franchises, they really have to hook in a big, grandiose audience, and that's what Star Wars did. And Han Solo is definitely a part of that success. I mean, you wouldn't have the flying through the asteroids. You wouldn't have all the snark. You wouldn't have the who shot first. All of those things if you don't have Han Solo. Or you wouldn't have Chewbacca.
The I love you. And like
that
was apparently just Harrison Ford improv that, right? And so it's one of those where, like, that's iconic. And so, Harrison Ford is Han Solo. And I'm glad that he wasn't necessarily killed off early in the series or as early as he wanted to be. He wanted to die in the first movie.
Right.
But I mean, his reasoning is pretty clear. Like, he thought that, look at this universe around me. I'm supposed to be a human smuggler. These are fucking space wizards.
Yeah.
Like, what? I'm going to shoot them with a blaster? Come on. Like,
Right.
But, he proves that there is power in being charismatic.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think he also sort of like left the door open for like spin-offs too, because it shows that you don't have to necessarily wield a lightsaber to be impactful in Star Wars. Like
that's true.
Rogue One and Mandalorian. So
yeah. He was the character that kind of really solidified that as well, especially in those first movies before Leia had really given any chance to shine as a strong character. But he didn't steal the show quite as much as number one in our countdown, which is the Queen Prince of Crime herself. That's not really her title, but anyways, Harley Quinzel. Harleen Quinzel used to be a name that was only found in the Pornhub browsers of very optimistic comic book simps, but now she's a DC icon. The Arkham Asylum psychiatrist created by Paul Dini in the 1992 series was simply a throwaway character to even the odds between Joker and the dynamic duo. But the Mad Doctor has become oh so much more. Harley has gone from a throwaway to a movie title headliner. She pulls properties up simply by having her mere presence. Suicide Squad, Birds of Prey. She hasn't headlined a movie fully herself, though Birds of Prey was very, very close to that.
It was the Harley Quinn movie.
It was pretty much. But she does have her own series out on HBO, which is more than can be said for her boyfriend. She's also bisexual, and her relationship with Ivy has earned her not only a bunch of representation points, but a hell of a whole lot of shippers. Just leave her, girl. You got a better thing going, okay? All right? Constantly rooting for her to make the right call. Harley is an incredible character at her core. When she is with the Joker, she is the embodiment of Stockholm Syndrome and meant to showcase the downsides of blind love. And when she isn't with the Joker, she is a symbol for the abolition of the patriarchy and the abolition of pretty much everything I said previously. There are a lot of dimensions to her, and the fact that there are a lot more dimensions to her other than the fact that she's hot and constantly makes anyone there's a lot more other dimensions to her other than the fact that she's hot and constantly makes people anyone who's attracted to women question whether or not they have a clown fetish. Joker may be the clown prince of crime, but Harley Quinn is definitely the queen of stealing the show. I mean, honestly, can you think of any like throwaway Harley Quinn cameos? Like, I can't really think of one. There's that one in Arrow where it's not, you don't even see her, you just hear her voice.
Oh yeah, the Easter egg.
Easter egg. But other than that, like, I can't think of a time where she appears in a show and the show doesn't become a Harley Quinn show. Can you guys think of any examples?
And even that, where they heard her voice, like the fact that the episodes about Suicide Squad, and the shows how impactful they had, like they had to mention her in some way, like yeah.
No, and to think that she was started off as just kind of like a throwaway, like comic character that was just supposed to be, she was a well written out, like kind of like side character for Joker. Yeah. Like they were just like a well-designed side character for Joker is what I should say, not well written out, because they didn't really like have like the whole Harley Quinzel psychology backstory at first, and then they saw the popularity of the character and they ran with it, and kudos to them, because like this is one of those where like she was made, I believe, for the Batman animated series. And it's not even the comics really, and now she's a staple in DC Comics. One that had multiple movies, multiple shows. The Harley Quinn, the animated show right now, is probably one of my favorite animated shows of 2020 and of 2019, because it came out last year too. It's been back to back 2 years running one of Jake's favorite animated shows.
I feel like it came back quick for that second season, like real quick. Young Justice is looking at it like lapping it, like
Yeah, but no, like Harley Quinn that's why she's number one on the list, is because like there's not many characters who go from just some kind of like written side character to being like a staple within the franchise. So
solid.
I agree.
Solid. That's why she's number one. Quick couple of honorable mentions: Charizard, Baby Yoda, Falco, Deadpool, Ridley and Towley, Mr. Hanky, just to name a few. Obviously, all these are great characters. We decided to stick with non-video game characters. That's why Charizard and Falco didn't get in the mix. But Baby Yoda, he was hard to not put up there with
definitely been
Han Solo. But we had a Solo.
I'm gonna say he didn't make it for me. Baby Yoda didn't, because he stole the show, but he was already written into the show, and as far as we know, his like the trajectory of that character hasn't changed just because of the popularity of the Baby Yoda, right? Like they haven't confirmed like, oh, we were actually gonna kill Baby Yoda, like one episode in. Like it kind of feels like the whole show was around the child and was supposed to be around the child, and so the fact that we loved him.
Didn't anticipate his popularity. Yeah.
Now they didn't anticipate the popularity, and that's true in the merch. But like, I don't think he really like had a change in the show. You know what I mean?
No.
Like the merch situation with Baby Yoda was really interesting, because they definitely underestimated the popularity of Baby Yoda, because they didn't have the merchandising rights out at the right time, and there was a huge backlog. It was a huge high demand for Baby Yoda content, and nobody could supply it. And so if you were on Etsy and you could make, Baby Yoda figurines, you were making bank, because no one could make anything like that right at that time, or had the merchandising rights to do so. So that's just an interesting tidbit about Baby Yoda. But anyways, that is about it for our countdown. We've got a hell of a whole lot. We're about 45 minutes over our normal scheduled time that we normally do. So we went for a much longer episode. thank you guys so much for tuning in. Saint Sinner, Jessica Kiss, let's see, Sag Gaming, Fattest Sax, always here having a fun time with us. And Littlest Nelly, of course, as well. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And yeah, so if you like anything you see or hear on the show tonight, be sure to follow us here on Twitch. Please subscribe to us on YouTube. We need some more subscribers there. We got a lot of great content out there. Everything's all organized and looking pretty now. We also got some great stuff out on Facebook and Twitter as well. If you want to follow us on any of our personal pages, you can find me on Twitter and Twitch at RuseBane, WRUSE_BANE. Kev, where can they find you?
Twitch, Totally Awesome, and all other socials, Kevin Todd Jr.
And Jake?
You can find me at Gonzo Gone Live. It should be somewhere over there. I'm on the Twitch and the Twitterverses.
The Twitch and the Twitterverses. Nice. Big shout out to our moderator, Littlest Nelly. I hope you're doing well. Bronwyn's not here with us today, but she's doing all right. Shout out to Bronwyn. Big shout out and big thank you to our video producer, Cape, putting everything together, making sure everything looks all pretty. See those new notifications on the side? Yeah, they look really cool, don't they?
Nice.
And
snaps for Cape.
All of our supporters and all of our followers that are watching, thank you guys so much for tuning in. And yeah, that's about it. That's all I got. We'll see you guys next week. Same time, same place.
Y'all come back now. You hear?
Come back.